Hello and welcome back to the Now We Know Show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learned something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zach.
And I'm Buzz, and in this episode we're asking the question, what is a prepper? And can you prep on a budget?
If you enjoy the Now We Know Show podcast, why not support Zak Wylde Productions on our Patreon page? Become an official ZWP patron for as little as £1 a month for exclusive early access to all our latest episodes, videos, behind the scenes, updates and more.
So in order to help us find, hopefully, an answer to this question of what is a prepper, we've got a real special guest in the studio with us tonight, a prepper himself. Please welcome Jack Harris to the studio. Welcome, Jack.
Hello.
And this is your first time in the Zak Wylde Productions dungeon studio.
yeah, it's cosy.
And as I say, this episode is all about prepping.
Yeah, I'm really interested to find out what it actually means to be a prepper.
Right, so that's where I thought we'd start this series off, because we're looking to do a series of podcasts because the subject of prepping is...
It's quite broad.
Yeah, it's very broad and it's got lots of layers to it. One of the things that kind of bugs me about when you say I'm a prepper, people immediately think of doomsday preppers.
Yeah, the extreme zombies.
Yeah,
yeah, he's wearing a zombie t-shirt.
He's got his zombie killing t-shirt on in the corner here. And and people just jump, boom. Now, I suppose that's the thing. You can be into so many different things these days and people will automatically sort of have a stereotypical
view. It's a stereotype for everything, isn't there?
Yeah. So, we kind of, for me, I need to answer this question because, you think about it and say, well, what exactly is a prepper? Because in recent years, it's sort of thrown itself into the spotlight of what's going on, especially when we suddenly hit COVID and people were going mad buying up all the toilet rolls and the pasta and everything else. That led to people saying, oh, people are hoarding stuff and things like that. And again, you say, I'm a prepper, and some people say, oh, you're one of those people that just hoards.
Yeah, and you immediately think they have a bunker somewhere.
Yeah, they've got a bunker. Well, interesting you say that because it was probably the beginning of the year, or I think it was the beginning of this year. Are you familiar with Ben Fogle?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he does documentaries and things. I think years ago, the first I saw of Ben Fogle on TV was it was a survival programme based on, I think, an island in Scotland called Tarrant, where they got a group of everyday people with different skill sets, and they were hoping that they could survive by butchering their own food, growing their own food, fishing for their own food on the island Tarrant for a year. And if I recall, it all fell apart.
Oh dear.
So worth a watch then.
Yeah, it was probably part of your original kind of what do they call it these days? Reality TV that we have so much of these days, where Big Brother these days and things. So anyway, so that was all about survival. So that kind of plucked my interest because of all these people there. But unfortunately, it turned out to be more of a, as you just said, Jack, a social experiment on people interacting.
Well,
together.
that reminds me of a Stone Age one. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, the Stone Age one again.
There's been a few of them.
They were meant to, and I was really looking forward to seeing how they did flint knapping, made bows.
Because they got experienced people in, didn't they?
Yeah, experienced people.
But again, it completely fell apart.
And it ended up being nothing about the actual skill sets of what they needed to survive. It's more like
the emotional journey.
Yeah, the emotional journey, the conflict.
Nothing about the skills.
The mental impact of being stuck on an island.
Exactly. So anyway, Ben Fogle recently did a series which was about people living off grid. I was watching one of these, which were based on a family, I think, down in Devon, called the Masons, and they bought some land and they'd had problems with the local council because the local council said, no, you can't live there permanently, and so they were desperately trying to get permission to. They'd put a temporary house there and they were being told they were going to have to take it down and all this stuff, but eventually they got permission. So running forward a little bit, they'd got this small holding, they got animals, vegetables.
Yeah, weren't they trying to be like completely
off-grid
and eco?
Yeah.
Eco-neutral.
They were, the husband and the wife were doing small jobs locally to bring in some some money to help them put this lifestyle together. So Ben asked them the question that we are asking ourselves in the studio today, and that is, what is a prepper? He asked them, are you preppers? Now, I'd been watching that programme eagerly, watching them make chutneys, jams, canning their own food, chopping loads of firewood up for the winter, making sure all their produce would get them through,
building up their stores.
All their stores, yeah, exactly. All that kind of stuff, which is great. And so he asked them, are you preppers? And then immediately, no, we're not. No, we're not preppers. We don't have a
gun cabinet.
A gun cabinet, and we're not, waiting for the zombie apocalypse. And I sort of sat there thinking, well, hang on, guys.
This is a programme
what do you do
about
if
this.
not prepping?
You are preppers, but even as preppers, you are saying you're not preppers, because you've got the idea that a prepper is somebody that is kind of...
It's almost like a generalisation.
Yeah, generalisation. So, and that really prompted me to say, okay, what is a prepper? And so it took me back to my own family, my parents. I grew up, we were a very poor family, so we made as much as we could out of what we had. We grew everything in the garden, and did exactly what I just said the Masons were doing, making chutneys, making preserves. But then so did our grandparents. All of the people, the listeners listening today, I'm sure at some point, if they go back in their generations, everybody's grandparents, great-grandparents, prepped.
I guess they had to.
Yeah, because they
didn't really have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Did you?
But that's really where I see prepping. It's for me, it's being prepared. Obviously, the word prepping is being prepared. Whereas an awful lot of people in this day and age, they tend to live on this kind of literally 24-hour clock. They don't necessarily have to buy even a week's food. They might buy a couple of days' food.
I mean, if they live near a shop,
yeah,
then you could go there every day.
We do live near a shop, and we do frequent it most days, if not every day.
Well, there you go.
But we've decided in the last year that actually, you can't do that all the time.
No,
when COVID happened.
Yeah.
COVID was the restrictions, and of course financially, we're all being squeezed at the moment. The mortgages
Crazy
are going
times,
up.
very uncertain.
Everything, fuel prices, everything. So money is really tight, which really should prompt people to be kind of more, well, what can I do to help myself out in a situation like this? And so it kind of takes us away from that zombie killing, waiting for the nuclear holocaust type of image of a prepper.
That's like an extreme scenario.
Yeah. So anybody listen to this, I hope you're going to start to get an idea that being a prepper isn't about that at all.
The extremes.
It
could be
it's not a nutcase in a bunker
Yeah.
waiting for
financial difficulties.
Financial difficulties.
Maybe some like a drought or extreme weather or something.
Extreme weather, power outages, all those sorts of things are just
which I did prepare for.
Which Jack did prepare for, and we're going to come to that. As we go through the podcasts. So, Jack, what's your? You've heard my approach to what a prepper is. Somebody who literally just prepares themselves to have some kind of backup in situations. Well, what's your idea of being a prepper?
That's exactly it. Really, is being prepared for literally anything, because you never know what's going to happen. Like, you go to bed, wake up the next day, and suddenly you're not allowed to go outside. Or, recently, my wife and I, we've had, like you say, with the money difficulties and everything, we got to the end of this month and been like, well, we actually can't afford to go and get food. We've got some in a box. Let's go and get that.
So and that comes back to this kind of impression where I've had the impression of some people that would be considered to be hoarding, and I don't agree with that, because the way I look at when you have a food store, backup supply of food, like our grandparents did in their larders, pantries, that's just something that you will eat into, and you will replace, but it means that there is this safety net.
A safety net, yeah.
You've got a safety net there, rather than if you remove that safety net and you are literally just saying, we've run out of food, we need to phone up Tesco's or Ocado or any number of companies that bring food to your house, and and they'll deliver some food to us, and we've got food again for another couple of days, or we'll just ring up, what is it, Uber Eats?
Just Eat.
Because a lot of people, I mean, honestly, I've found an awful lot of people don't even have that much food in the house. They literally living off this kind of, I can get food 24/7.
So that's kind of how we live at the minute, because time is really quite precious.
Time
is, and so going out and getting the shopping in, or taking the time to sit down and put an order in on the laptop or whatever. When you've got 4 kids, it's a bit difficult to find the time to do that. So we'll quite often be like, oh, well, what should we have for dinner? We'll just nip down the shop. And so we don't have a great amount of food in the house that we just use like people would, just in the cupboards or whatever. But we are storing food.
You have got that backup
for when, times are hard and you can't go to the shop and get whatever you need.
Which is the essence of prepping.
Yeah.
So, and again, prepping for all sorts of different reasons. And so maybe we should kind of look at a few of those.
Well, that was the thing. Okay, so you bring up reasons for prepping and stuff. When we've obviously watched Doomsday Preppers and things.
Oh, yes.
When they went to each and every single person in that, they would each come up with a very extreme, specific scenario.
Oh, yeah. I am prepping for a super volcano.
Honestly, a solar storm or something.
A solar storm. I'm prepping for worldwide financial collapse.
I think Jack said it before, but you can really, you have to kind of prepare for any eventuality.
You can't prep for one specific thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes you a prepper. That makes you paranoid about one thing.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with you there. So, I mean, these are TV shows. Maybe that's part of the... I don't know whether it's part of the hype of the show, but also it kind of is a bit disturbing, because if people watch it and take that on board and think that that's exactly
it's almost misinformation, isn't it?
Well, they've got loads of companies over in America that build bunkers and things.
You can actually...
There's entire stores I saw on one of the shows once that just sell stuff for prepping for a zombie apocalypse and stuff.
That's very specific.
I think there's a guy, isn't there, who has purchased a whole missile silo. And he's turning into individual bunkers to sell off to people so they can have this whole community.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of thinking about weighing up the likelihood of certain events and stuff. Is it more likely that we'll have an event like COVID or an infectious zombie apocalypse?
Yeah.
That's the things we have to consider.
Yeah. Is it going to be a severe storm? Or is Putin going to suddenly do a nuclear strike?
And where is that going to be?
How
is that going to affect everywhere else?
I mean, even we shouldn't joke about it with the current climate as it is, but even if that power station in the Ukraine, which is the largest one in Europe, got damaged, not only would the local area for probably hundreds of kilometres be affected, but depending on which wind direction is going, that radiation would travel.
Yeah.
That fallout would travel and affect thousands upon thousands of people. So I suppose if you were living close by to those kind of high-risk areas, you may have a mind to think about your preps in a more specific way. Would that be correct of me sort of saying?
Yeah.
If you literally live next door to
a high-risk area, you'd prep for the high risk that you live next to. If you live next to a river, you'd probably prep for flooding. Or if you lived on top of a hill, you probably wouldn't. So.
That would be lightning strikes, I don't know. But
it could be. Could be.
Well, I mean, even now, you mentioned earlier, because obviously news today was
Hurricane Ian, isn't it?
In Florida, and I think there's 2 million people out without power at the moment.
It's having disastrous effects over there.
So with that is a storm, and weather conditions are getting so more turbulent these days. We're noticing it in the UK. We've had only the hottest summer we've had in ever, isn't it?
Yeah,
on record.
Until next year.
Until next year. But it could is just as much swing to have the worst winter. I'm not saying, listeners, that I'm not I'm not dooming everything.
Maybe it'll just feel like it because you've been treated to such high temperatures. It feels cold already, but it shouldn't feel cold yet.
We are all ginger in here, so we do like the cold.
We're more adapted to the cold because the day star burns.
Yeah, we just burn.
We just burn. We don't tan. We burn. We hide in the shadows. So prepping and being a prepper is literally, I think, first and foremost, just being prepared to a certain level and not going extreme.
Yeah.
But even so, there can be a cost involved in that.
Yes.
And I saw a post not so long ago on social media because I follow a few different prepping sites,
Pages and groups and
groups.
things.
Yeah. And one of them, a gentleman said that his local substation had been damaged and the power had gone out. As part of his prep, and I don't know the exact details, but he basically, part of his prep was he'd got a battery bank set up with solar panels, etc., etc. So when all the power went out, that happened in the evening, his house was the only house that had power still on. But he was running his fridge, freezers, blah, blah, blah. I said, and I think if I recall from the post, he said he probably had about 10 hours worth of reserve power.
Right.
It wasn't long until people were knocking on his door saying, "Oh, can you charge my phone up? Can you charge my laptop up? Can you do this? Can you do
That's
that?"
interesting. Were they like noticing the lights through his
They
windows or something?
noticed
Presumably,
that he's the only house that's got light on.
Yeah.
So his neighbours are coming, "Oh, can you charge this up? Can you do that?" And he said, "Look, with all due respect, I've got limited power here that I have had the foresight to prep for."
You didn't.
He didn't.
Yeah.
And if I go around sharing all my power out with everybody,
Then what was the
and
point of me doing it?
And I don't know
Yeah,
how long
exactly.
this power outage is going to last. I need my power as long as I can keep it. It wasn't okay. We respect that. Fine. He got a lot of abuse. He said, they turned on him and were telling him he was basically hoarding and he was awful and he should,
Some people
how can
suddenly
he
turn
live
into
with himself?
pack animals.
Yeah, and you kind of think, well, that's terrible. If you're suddenly faced with that, just because you've had a little mind to do some kind of prepping in order to,
Ironically, probably the one thing he wasn't prepared for.
suddenly inundated.
Being lynched by the locals.
I'm sure that at this point he's probably, next time I'm putting the blackout curtains
But
in, turning the lights off.
Isn't that a statement towards how kind of fragile as a society we all are?
Well, that's it. I mean, what do they say? You're 72 hours away from civil unrest. If people don't eat for 72 hours, they don't have a square meal for 72 hours, that people then start losing it. You know?
Go crazy, become desperate.
So there's one person if I recall, I think it was a program called UK Preppers, might have been on one of the streaming services, Disney Plus or something like that. Strange. Well, no, because that has National Geographic on it, doesn't it? So it may well have been Disney Plus. Anyway, they were saying how that in that sort of situation, even the granny next door, who's usually
Really nice.
really nice, will take a carving knife and come after you for a loaf of bread.
Grab your torch and pitchfork.
So, but that's it. People do suddenly change. These are probably all subjects for discussions in further episodes. So, pulling it back for a moment to, what is a prepper and what should we be really looking at as far as prepping is concerned? It's probably those everyday, if you want to call them everyday, essentials that you might find that you suddenly need. So that's where I'm going to come on to you, Jack, because you produced something after there was a post on Facebook. I think you probably made it a while back before then, but there was a post that followed up what I just said about that gentleman. And when I mentioned it on my feed, I got a little, I wouldn't call it backlash, but I did have people coming back to me saying, we can't all afford power banks and solar panels and things like this. And then yesterday I noticed another gentleman who put a post up saying that he'd made a sort of like a backup prep if the power goes out. And he had it laid out on the table. It was a video. I had a look at the video, and he got solar charger, solar backup battery banks, all sorts of gizmos and things. And when you looked at that, hundreds of pounds worth of gear. But we said, how can we do it on a budget? And Jack, you came to the rescue, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw. I don't remember how I even came up with the idea or thought about it. So something triggered it, and I can't remember what it was. It must have been the post that you put up about the guy's power going out, and I thought I should probably do something for if the power does go out, actually. And I
Good idea.
Good idea.
And so yeah, I coined it the blackout box.
The blackout box. I
And,
like that term.
And yeah, it's just a £5 box from B&Q or wherever, filled with a few bits and bobs you might need in in a power cap.
Right. So you went out and you basically, when you say a box, you got a toolbox, didn't you?
Yeah. It was the cheapest one in there, and it's bright orange.
Yeah. Funny enough, I've got exactly the same. I've got. If you can duck down,
down
look into the gallery.
Oh,
yeah.
There's two of them in the gallery. I've got another one down the house. They're really handy boxes. But so your box was £5, but you don't even have to spend that because you can just use
you
a
could
box,
just use a cardboard box.
The one that you already have.
Yeah, you can just.
I just needed one that was a bit more childproof than a cardboard box.
So the overall cost that you said, did that?
At the time, it was about 15 to 20 quid, I think.
And this was
That's
basically
including the box.
Yeah, this is including the box. So if you just use a shoe box that you already have, then you've got an extra £5 to spend on the contents. But this box was specifically designed that if we have a blackout, that you've got something to hand, rather than being suddenly finding you're without.
Rather than rummaging through the drawers and stuff like that.
So, well...
In the dark.
In the dark.
So, but again, that's prepping, okay? So even if you had put a blackout box together and you've put it in the bottom of your wardrobe and then the power goes out and you've got no lights at all, you've suddenly got to find yourself up the stairs, if you're not in a bungalow, up the stairs... into your bedroom, rummaging around trying to find what it is. So you've already got to say, well, that's probably not the best place to put it, or I need to have something else somewhere else as an initial light source. And all that train of thought is prepping, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about things. Because the fuel costs have gone up so much in UK and across Europe at the moment, probably worldwide, we in the UK have had rumblings that there's a possibility of having power outages over the winter because suddenly we're going to have a huge demand on the grid and resources, because of obviously current events, are becoming scarce. You know, we're limited, so we've got power outages. So it is a clever thing, or a forward-thinking thing to do exactly what you've done, Jack. So to do that and on a budget is fantastic. And I know we had a lot of interest about your blackout box. So what we want to know is, how did you put it together? What have you got in it that actually is effective, but at such a cost-effective price?
So the first thing that I got was in Tesco's you can get cheap little LED torches, and I thought, gonna need a torch. Kids will probably want torches. They're like £2. So I bought 3 of them for the kids. Come with the batteries already in them. Take the batteries out, so they're not being used.
Yeah.
And put them in the box. And then I was like, well, need a few more things, and so had a rummage around the house, found a box of matches, found some candles, tea lights and stuff, packets of tea lights. People have probably got them laying around from Halloween's past. So a lot of it went in from stuff I already had, just laying around. Just being a bit more organised with the stuff I've already got. And adding to it. Yeah.
That's the thing. If you know that it's all in one place, you then don't have to find 5 different things that are spread out all across your house.
Exactly. Yeah. So I stuck a little battery-powered radio that I've got. It's been laying around the house. I threw that in there. I think the most of the cost came from buying like spare batteries for the things that I had laying around the house.
You say you've got kids.
So,
out of interest, do you have? Can you think as being father? And all the toys you have to maintain for the kids.
Yes, loads of batteries in
there.
there.
Loads of batteries. Exactly. See, this is one of the things. Go back to the video I said earlier about the chap who'd made. It was a very decent blackout pack, if you want to call it that. It was all very expensive kit, and one of the essentials was a head torch. Now, I love a head torch because it gives you hands free. And again, a head torch in a blackout box doesn't have to cost you the earth. You can actually pick really cheap ones up just for a couple of quid.
Yeah.
Which will take either 2 AAA batteries or or even 1 AA battery, which again you can scavenge. Push comes to shove, you can scavenge those.
And even if you don't have kids, you've got a TV remote somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah. See, Jack's thinking. These are all brilliant tips. So you've got your TV remote. I have had a look around on things like Amazon and places. You can buy actually quite big packs, so they do their own basic range of batteries. So you can,
good to know.
I invested in a pack of those just to see how good they are.
Go straight on the Amazon wish list.
And
I do have a prepping basket on Amazon now.
Oh, right. So I have a prepping basket. Prepping wish list. Do you have a prepping wish list? Oh, Zach, you're falling behind there.
Well,
You're leaving it up to, you're leaving it to Dad.
I'm having a look. I've got loads of wish lists on my
I
Amazon.
wonder, has anybody else who's listening to this got a prepping wish list on Amazon? I wonder if the Amazon, the people who do the analytics and everything, like, look at these people. They've all got what is
They'll all
these,
start popping
what are
up.
these prepping wish lists? We're suddenly getting like adverts tailored to us.
Yeah. You've only got to say it near a phone, haven't you?
All right, and we put that to the test after the podcast. We can all check our phones and see if we got solar panels coming up and battery banks and things. Probably would be. So you get cheap batteries, etc., etc. So you've got these torches, you've got tea lights and things. Question: you may have tea lights, but they can be quite dangerous. I mean, in the wrong hands. I've heard of people setting fire to their houses before where they've lit a tea light and put it on top of, you wouldn't do it so much on a flat screen TV these days, but with the old CRT TVs where they were much deeper,
yes,
people would put candles on top of the telly.
Okay.
Obviously, the little aluminium cup that a tea light is in is it's not there to say, oh, this is perfectly safe to put on any surface. So they've actually melted them through the top of the telly.
Oh, no.
And,
Wow.
Serious fires have happened. Because people think, oh, candle, I'll just light it, but they've got no experience in
It's a
using
bit of
it.
negligence, isn't it?
Well, negligence or they're just lacking
common sense.
common sense or experience.
True.
So you got tea lights. I dare say you must have.
Usually we've got quite high shelves and things up out the way. We're quite sensible.
Yeah, 'cause you've got kids.
Placement.
You've got young
exactly.
children.
You must have high shelves with
You're
young,
pretty
young
late.
kids. Yeah.
Pretty late.
Keep them out of the way. But I did think about that, and I was like, well, we need to go up and down the stairs and things. What would I do on the stairs? So I actually, in a first aid kit that I purchased 5 years ago for a trip to Finland, there was a 12-hour glow stick in there. That's straight in the box. That's hanging on the stairs. So there you go.
Yeah,
If
good.
you
Good.
don't need flames on the stairs.
No, using
Not a
glow
good idea.
sticks, cheap battery
I suppose
torches.
If you get those posh desserts as well, they get little glass pots. You could keep hold of those to put tea lights in.
We were talking about that because
What are they
we've
called?
got some from cheesecakes.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing. That's the thing.
one. And because we're going to be doing a podcast on hot sauce.
Yeah, okay.
We needed some containers to put hot sauce in. We're diversifying. Definitely having safe containers to put things in. To be fair, we have cats, and I don't know if you've got any animals, but
Yes, many.
Yeah. But you
Cats
say
are
that
stupid as well. They just walk over the fire. And
we have an abundance. We have an abundance of tin cans, so I always wash those out, and I always keep a store of tin cans because a tin can can easily be fashioned into a
cut in
lantern,
half, yeah.
a lantern, or even a little hobo stove.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can use it for cooking and things. So you've made that emergency blackout box, which only set you back 15 quid, and it's got everything there. So if your power goes out in the house, so we're going to have this scenario. So we're midwinter, power's gone out. Boof. First thing, you know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you know what you've got in that kit. Obviously, your wife does as well. So you've now got light. Is there anything else in there apart from
I've got
light?
a little solid fuel camping stove in there if it's that desperate. But we have a gas stove in the house anyway.
Because
So.
that's another thing. So maybe we should broaden that and let's put our minds together on that. If the power's gone out and you're living in a house or a flat, something like that, an apartment, and it's solely run from electricity, so you've got no gas cooker, you've got nothing, you've got no heating, you've got nothing. It really does pay to have a prep in that case, because again, go back to the video I kept mentioning about this chap, and it was a good video, so I'm not knocking the chap for the video, but I remember he had a lot of little mobile, solar-powered mobile chargers, but even so, they can slowly run out of charge. And his head torch, that was the reason I was bringing up the head torch. The head torch in his kit was a rechargeable head torch, and he actually in the video said, these are really good, you can't do without a head torch. Totally agree. And they're all USB rechargeable, which I don't like personally myself. When it comes to a head torch, I'd rather have a standard battery powered one.
Yeah, agreed. Because
once it's run out, if you have no further power, you can't recharge it. But if you have got a battery torch, you have that flexibility where you can raid the kids' toys. You can hopefully find a battery. But if you've got a big power outage, then I dare say like shops have gone out. have you ever considered things like a generator or anything like that?
So I did look afterwards, once we'd had this discussion before, at sort of, longer term power solutions and things. And one of the things that came up was a little, I think you have one as well, it's a little car jumper thing, but it also...
Yeah.
So that's slightly longer term, but for diesel generators and stuff, I haven't looked at them yet. I've sort of put this box together as a 1 to 2 day power out thing. And
so if you were stuck midwinter, you've obviously got gas cooker, so your gas is going to continue to run unless they have a gas shortage. But even in that, it's giving you some kind of heating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, have you got gas central heating or is it electric?
Yes, gas central heating as well. So.
But because
that requires there to be electricity to run.
Exactly. So you're really down to you have got your backup gas cooker.
Yeah.
So let's take that gas cooker away from you now. Okay, you've got an electric cooker.
Okay.
Boom, you've got no gas now. What would you do? As a prepper, what would you be thinking?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Well, I have a couple of options. I've got the little solid fuel camping thing that would cook a saucepan of something. I've got a gas-powered camping stove as well.
Right. And what sort of gas does that run off?
It's a little, I think they're little butane ones. They're
Oh,
ones
the
from Go
six-
Outdoors.
Yeah, the singular
yeah.
cylinders that go in.
Yeah, so I've got one of those with 8 cans of gas. But also, like, you can cook off of tea lights and things, can't you? You know.
Do you have a barbecue in the garden?
I've got a barbecue, yeah.
Right,
so there's plenty of options, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose where that kind of prepping falls down, perhaps, is again if you go back to the scenario of somebody in a flat, where they can't they can't have a barbecue.
Yeah.
They might. I do see some people with balconies have barbecues on the balcony.
If you have a balcony,
or if you have the fuel in midwinter, have you thought about stocking up on some charcoal before?
I actually haven't, but I should do.
Yeah.
We've had fewer barbecues this year than I would have liked. So
meat
yeah.
costs.
Yeah, meat costs, and just it's socialising costs.
Socialising, yeah. I think that's hit everybody really.
Yeah.
Going places and doing things. Prepping. It doesn't have to be about the zombie apocalypse, but I want to bring up an area that kind of I find odd. Well, not odd, but maybe I prefer. When people talk about scenarios when it comes to prepping, they always tend to say, and excuse me, listeners, for saying this, they always say, what would you do in a shit hit the fan scenario? So every time it's like a SHIT hits the fan scenario, and can't we as a community think of something better to say than that?
better acronym or something.
Yeah, because that's not even a good acronym, because you can't say an SHT.
It's not shorter.
No. Yeah. There are other things because I see what I mean. Because if you've got a bug out bag, that's a bob.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, have you got a bob?" Mm-hmm. You automatically you go, "Oh, you mean a bug out bag?" Or what have you got? An EDC.
Oh,
Everyday carry.
Everyday carry.
Yeah.
See, everyday carry, which is another simple bit of prepping.
More of an American term, isn't it? That one,
yeah, but it's an acronym you can easily say.
Yeah.
But SHIT hits the fan, isn't it? So I want to come up with something else, you see. So, but I was looking for other alternatives, and I've not been successful.
Oh dear.
So I don't know if you've got any better ideas. But I was thinking, what else could you say instead of that? I've got all hell breaks loose scenario.
That's the PG version.
A chaos ensues situation.
Oh, I don't like that one. That's too complicated.
You'll love this one. A situation suddenly becoming serious and unpleasant.
That's the posh version.
This good old one. What if the balloon goes up?
That can be misinterpreted, can't it? Because some people would want the balloon to go up.
Yeah. They'll all be like,
is it helium? It should go up. What are you doing?
what about the excrement hit the air conditioning? Okay.
Any more?
Yeah, I've got a couple more.
Pie in the face scenario.
When the toast hits the floor, jam side down scenario.
Oh no, don't want that.
What you want to do is put a cat on the back of it because they always land on their feet.
Yeah, but that's how you design the perpetual energy.
Yes.
That's it. You just fix it onto
It
a
should
generator.
never touch the ground.
And that cat's never going to touch the ground. And you got lucky.
That's how we create some kind of interdimensional portal.
Excellent prepping advice for you all. Strap
That's
toast
it. Strap
with jam.
onto the back of your cat. That's it. And drop it out of the window. Make sure it's got a generator connected.
Infinite energy right there.
Infinite energy. Well, for all we know, that's exactly what they've got in all them power stations. You see, they're just having us on. It's
Maybe
just full of
that's what
cats.
that's what that
Cats
guy
and jam.
had.
That's why there's a jam shortage.
This is a very specific conspiracy theory.
Really.
Take a bit of a turn.
I've still got a couple more, guys. I've still got a couple more. Okay. Oh, well, this is a simple one. When all hell breaks out scenario.
That was your first one.
Oh, no. Yes. No, when all hell breaks loose.
Okay.
Fair
Fair enough.
Breaks out. And of course, the one that everybody knows, everything has gone south scenario.
I feel like that's probably the one, isn't it?
Everything has gone south scenario.
I think it's quite long to say.
Yeah. I feel like we should. Every time I'm looking at preppers things.
If anyone has any suggestions, please comment below or get in contact with the Now We Know Show.
We don't have to keep saying shit hit the fan all the time. But anyway, back to reality. Yeah, simple prepping. So, what is a prepper? What got you into prepping? That's what I want to ask you, Jack.
A general mistrust of the government to do their job properly.
Well, I've got this creeping feeling right at this moment, at the time of recording of this episode, I think probably most of the country will agree with you.
So that was the thing.
Very topical.
It was,
Very topical.
It was a bit, it wasn't necessarily their fault, but it was just, when COVID happened, there was quite a delay on people being prepared for the situation. You'd have thought that they would have experts in this field to say, this is going to happen at some point, and when it does, they have, what's it called?
A think tank? Or?
Yeah, well, when they put models together for what would happen.
Right, okay. Yeah,
and how people would react. You'd
Yeah.
think there'd be enough social experts to say, when something like this happens, people are going to run to the shops and they are going to buy everything.
Yeah.
So it took them quite a while to put the limits on food buying.
Well, I remember going to the shops myself and
Loo roll.
suddenly,
Loo roll, exactly,
suddenly
yeah,
you went to buy something, you went, oh no, you can only have 2 of those.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, that was great when they did that, but I feel like they should have implemented that sooner so that there wasn't the problem in the first place.
The similar thing occurred when everybody went nutty about the fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that was crazy.
Suddenly there was this fuel scare, and then everybody
no
went
idea
out.
where that came from, because I'm pretty sure there wasn't a problem.
I think didn't it emanate from a couple of fuel stations down in Devon running out of fuel?
Possibly.
It was because everyone decided to then panic buy fuel that's when the problems occurred.
So they said the thing, and then the thing happens, which just seems to be how the media works, to be honest.
Yeah. But doesn't that have a reflection on the psyche of just everyday people? It's really awkward because everybody was running out to get fuel, and then at the time we had a lot of film jobs on where we were having to travel quite a distance to get to the film jobs.
Yeah.
That's work. And
Again, for House of the Dragon.
we needed to go and do that work, and we needed fuel. So you're suddenly seeing everybody rushing out and buying fuel that probably didn't need to buy fuel, and then you're going, well, I've got to rush out and buy fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a
Because
2.5 hour journey ahead of me.
Exactly,
I've got to go out there and get it, and now I'm having to queue up for 2 hours to get some fuel.
I didn't think it would last as long as it did when that did happen, and I was quite fortunate. I did fill the car up like the day before that it happened, and I was like, oh, that was lucky. Well, it'll only last a week.
But
then it lasted about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And my car was running out of fuel, and I was like, well, I must go and find some now because I've got 40 miles left in the tank, and it's going to cost me 40 miles of searching to find some, which is ridiculous.
We only just managed to get through that.
And then when you find it, you could only have 30 quid.
Well,
yes, able to bring my tank.
But that's what they should
limited.
have done right from the start.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier.
Rather than saying, there's a fuel shortage, they said, there's a fuel shortage and you're only allowed to buy 30 quid.
Yeah, 30 quid, that's
They
your
don't,
limit.
do they?
Because people were getting jerry cans out the
Yeah,
bag.
that
We had
was
to do
actually
that for work
happening.
as well. So
Yeah.
because they were stopping people from filling jerry cans, so my boss had a hard time because we have a lot of cars in the yard at work, we have to have jerry cans of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to go and get some, and it took him a bloody long time to find some.
Well, at the time, I was doing some clearing for a friend of mine on his land and using chainsaws and power tools, all petrol driven. And again, it was like I felt really, really self-conscious because I couldn't carry on with the work because I needed to go and see if I could get fuel and fill
And
up.
then you'd have to fill up a jerry can in front of everybody.
And they're all going, "You evil person, evil
You'd have been
man."
better off putting it in your tank and getting it back out again.
Siphoning it back in. Yeah. Oh dear, yeah. But that is a reflection on the human condition, I think, as well.
Nobody doesn't want to have anything.
Yeah. So
It's
you know,
is it, what do they call it? Fear of missing out.
FOMO.
oh, they've got an acronym, haven't they? That's
FOMO.
FOMO.
There you go.
That's a good acronym. Why can't we have it for a shit the fan situation? Yeah, but it is simple things, and I think that it is simple, small things like blackouts and the inability to suddenly go and get food and fuel. And it can be. It just shows that life is literally balanced on a knife edge.
Mm-hmm. And it amazes me that people they'll be prepared in some aspects of their life as well, because they'll drive around with a spare tire in the car, or they'll drive around, or not drive around, but they'll have. I had another example.
Come on, you can do
I
it.
can't remember what it was.
Well,
But yeah, so
come to you,
people are prepared in other aspects of life. They'll go out and think, oh, it might rain. I'll take a coat.
but still there'll be those ones who say, no,
I don't need to
But
do
then
that.
it does, and then you need one and you haven't got it.
Or-
Then they get wet.
Or they'll have those people that have a spare tyre, and I've met somebody like this myself when I was going down a dark lane, autumn time.
The spare tyre is their last time they've got a puncture.
Well, I passed this lady and she was like waving at me, and I thought I better stop, so I pulled over, and she got a flat tyre, and I said, "You got a spare?" "Yes." And what she wanted was she borrowed my mobile phone to ring her husband
To come and do it for
come and
them.
do it for her.
Oh, I see.
and so you think, yeah, I think frankly, it should be part of the driving test that people should be able to change the tyre. But anyway, but she really said, "Oh no, I need to ring my husband to come." I said, "No, that's not a problem. I can do it for you. But if I do it for you, can you watch me do it so you know how to do it if you get yourself in this situation, because you're in the middle of nowhere, and I could have been anybody. It's a very simple job." What I didn't know, she had a 12-year-old son sitting in the back seat. She made little Johnny get out, and she said, "Watch what the man does." I made him.
Oh my God.
She made him watch
sorry,
what I was doing.
Yes. 12-year-old boy, can you undo this wheel nut tightened to 150 Newton meters?
She did not want to know.
Goodness
She didn't want to know, and so
yeah, okay.
it just
All
throws
right.
up.
So I suppose in that situation, she had the spare tyre in her car because someone else put it there. So it comes with it.
It comes with the car.
So
It comes with the car.
they didn't
What
think
it's
they'll ever
for,
need
I have
it.
no idea. But yeah. It's strange, but just in everyday life,
So maybe something to take from that is being a prepper is also just knowledge.
Knowledge. Yes,
Is
I think
also
a good
prepping,
one. That's a good
you know.
one.
Yeah, I think
Just
that.
knowing how to do something,
How-
whether
how-
you do it or not, or whether you've done it before, knowing how to do it, knowing how to start a fire with a piece of chewing gum, foil, and a battery.
That's right. One of the fundamental things that I asked you today, didn't I, Zach? I said, what would be a fundamental skill as a prepper? Would you think that everybody should know how to do?
Lighting a fire.
Lighting a fire, which could be done in many different ways, but having the ability to do that. And I suppose in today's society, so many people, going back to what I said right at the beginning, so many people just live almost on this 24/7 clock
On
where
a
they
day-to-day basis.
where they don't have to think about anything, and of course that does leave you open to
We are quite spoilt as a society, aren't we?
To issues.
Everything's
it's there, but
for you.
the way I look at prepping, even in the smallest way, like having a blackout box, so it's there if the power goes out, even if the power's only out for an hour or 2 hours, that you've got light. It's insurance, isn't it? That's probably the better way.
That's
to
a
look
good
at it.
way of putting it.
Prepping is just insurance, and people will pay for insurance for their house, their contents, their
Driving insurance?
holiday insurance.
Kind of forced to do that, though, aren't they? That's not their choice, They
Oh,
have
okay.
to have
Well,
it.
but I mean,
They do it because
I was
they're
just
told.
listing off things that were included in insurance, okay?
Ultimately, you could argue that why do I need insurance at all? But yeah, we have to have insurance because of the shit
Anyway.
hits the fan. Things happen.
Yeah.
So
the car hits the lorry scenario.
yeah, so you know, prepping is, even in the smallest way, it is probably a combination of expanding your knowledge, having that knowledge base that you can draw upon, thinking about the smallest of things, and making sure you can cope and deal with those, and that gives you insurance, if you like, that you, if all the power goes out and you're suddenly, oh, well, that's okay. Don't worry, kids. I can still put a hot meal on the table.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have. We can still play games. We haven't got TVs.
We are fine. Everyone else is suffering.
Everyone else is suffering. Yeah, until they start knocking on your door.
You've got a light on.
You've got a light
lights
on.
off. Keep the lights off.
Shut the curtains.
I have blackout curtains all year round.
Yeah. So, have you thought about expanding your preps?
Yeah, actually. So we're looking, or I'm looking at solar panels and stuff like that, just prepping for rising fuel costs. I'm a bit late to the party, but better late than never. So other things was the power thing I said about earlier. You know, just having a bit of extra. I can run something larger if I need to. Yeah. So we've got food and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's just the entertainment. You know, we're not particularly well prepped for entertainment in a blackout situation because we rely on the TV a lot. So we're going to get
social
you know,
media,
yeah, exactly.
phones.
Everything is just so if the kids want to play a game or whatever, that's something we actually don't have. So, we're going to start getting board games and things.
What do you mean the PS5 doesn't work?
Yeah, I know. They're like
Dad,
that.
Dad,
I don't know how to
Dad, the
function.
power's gone out. What do we
what's
do?
the
Come and watch the
Wi-Fi?
telly.
Where's my Wi-Fi gone? Exactly.
So
Help.
yeah, thankfully, they're not too attached to video games and
Thank
stuff.
goodness.
So actually,
getting that age.
so do you think you'll see yourself kind of taking things further and start? I mean, I don't know. Do you grow your own produce at all?
As more of a hobby, something to do with the kids, you know.
But with the
teaching them,
current climate the way it is,
don't
have you
particularly have the room
considered
for it.
about maybe doing more of that?
Well, we used to have an allotment, but it became it was time consuming that we didn't have. So having stores of food that we can purchase, just every time you go to the shop, just buy a bit extra. You know, it doesn't have to be a £100 dedicated prepping shop.
Oh no.
Well,
I think that's the thing.
You just go, I'm going to pick up, you know,
An extra
5
tin of
tins.
beans.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to pick up 5 tins of beans for this week and 1 extra for the box.
I think that's what it puts people off because kind of like they suddenly find themselves in a scenario where they might need. I need extra food.
Help! I need to spend that
I
much
haven't
money.
got the money to spend on it. Yet, if you trickled it through,
You need to make it a hobby and a bit of a mindset
Yeah.
to
I mean,
do it, because you could just jump on the bandwagon and be like, yeah, cool, I'm going to go and buy all the stuff and get it all done. It ain't great if you could afford to do
At
that.
the same point that everyone else
Else
is
is
doing
doing-
it at the
exactly.
same time.
Yeah, that as well. So I mean, you could jump on the bandwagon and be like, yeah, I'm going to be a prepper, but I'm going to buy it all in one go. Or you could be too late and I need to buy food and everybody's buying food.
Yeah. So what are your?
I want your food. I'm going to go rob you.
So doing it on a budget is literally buying that very, very cheap value beans and just adding 1 tin wherever you can, just adding a bit more.
What's
and
29p on a shop?
and trying to prevent yourself from eating into that as you build
exactly.
stuff. Personally, I think that it's a good. I feel that it would be good, and I can't really see why most households thinking about it could do this, because it would just be a change of mindset. But I think that if every household had up to 1 month's worth of food for the amount of people in their house, you know, if you're a single person, that doesn't have to be a huge amount. But I mean, obviously, you're a family of six, so you've got quite a few mouths to feed. But if you could get yourself to a point where you've got 1 month's worth of food,
that's the aim, really.
Then you can eat into that, because obviously stock rotation and replace, but you've always got that buffer. I think that is personally
key.
is key, is to get that buffer in place before you need it. But then there's a lot of people who go, I don't need
That's
I don't.
silly.
That's the point, isn't it?
Is that gonna
That's the whole
happen?
point of the podcast is people going, I don't need that, and us going, you should probably prep for that.
Yeah, I think you should prep for that, because otherwise you'll be knocking at my door.
Yeah. say that when the power cuts out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so this is only our initial sort of dabble into prepping, and as I say, it's many layers. There's lots of things. You know, where you've got, as I say, just going through preservation of food, preserving food, the different stock rotations, best before dates, use by dates, things like that, foraging. When it comes to all sorts of the medical side of things, first aid. Yeah, part of prepping would be that somebody who's gone on a first aid course, so they kind of understand these basic first aid.
Again, it's knowledge, isn't it?
It's not. That comes under your knowledge base that you said about, Jack. So yeah, we can.
There's one thing I need to add to that list, which is quite a difficult one for even experienced preppers, I imagine, is water. Which is something I looked into.
Way?
Like, you know, if you haven't got running water suddenly, I looked into it and I was like, you can use. I think I worked it out to be my family would use, if suddenly there was a month's worth of no water, we use 1,000 litres of water a month.
Mm-hmm. Well,
who
minimal.
can store, like, you can store a month's worth of food.
Yep.
What about water?
Well,
like,
I would say a minimum is what, 2 litres a day for an adult.
To live properly, yeah.
2 litres a day.
You can survive on half a litre, they're saying, to keep your kidneys going.
So again, that would be definitely a very good subject to look into in more detail in a further podcast, because that brings into could be the area that you live in the country. We're in the UK, obviously, and normally we're a very wet country. We got a lot of water around, especially up in Scotland and Wales. And of course there are things you can do with water. But of course, maybe we should put our minds together and think about what if we were the person stuck in an apartment block in the middle of a city. What are you going to do in that situation?
Bit of a film reference here, but do you remember 28 Days Later? They were trying to collect water on buckets on the roof.
Oh yes, that was on a tower block, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But again, it didn't rain, so no water.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They had to leave.
I believe rainwater isn't actually ideal. Well, I suppose if they were collecting it in the buckets, it is. But collecting rainwater off your roof, not such a good idea. If you're, sticking it at the bottom of your drain pipe or whatever, not a good idea.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We can go off track in the podcast. This is the whole thing. It's very fluid, and we.
Pardon the pun.
yeah, good one. But I had one of my best friends spent. I think she lived in Bermuda for about 5 years, and we did go and visit her in Bermuda. And Bermuda, being such a small island, water is, a resource that is scarce. It's such a small island with all the population there, plus they have all the cruise liners coming in and everything else. So it's at a premium. So what they do is in Bermuda, all the houses, all the roofs are white limed. And every house has its own water tank. So if it rains, that's your water. Every house has its own water tank, comes directly off the roof. You're not allowed, because they try and keep down the mosquitoes and insects. You get fined if you leave old tyres around that can collect water, and then the mosquitoes can breathe in. So they don't want any lying water around anywhere. Wow. If they've got water, they want it in your water tanks. And then each house has a water filter. So literally, the water, it rains, into your tank, through your water filter, you drink it, cook with it, everything else.
That'd be really good.
If you run out of water, then you can pay for the government to send a water truck round to fill up your tank. You see? Okay. But otherwise, you don't pay for water.
Excellent. Sort of.
Because
assuming it rains.
Depends how much you use and if it rains.
How much you use. But that's where I sometimes look at that and I think, well, here we are in the UK, and although we've just had the hottest summer going, we usually get a lot of rain, and we can't just let it go.
It's quite amazing. We've been working quite hard since the start of COVID. We sort of got into gardening, and have got
the water butt's gone in.
Well, exactly. So we had one water butt. It's quite large. I'm not sure how many litres it is. And then I got another one that my dad gave me, and I fitted that. It would have been just around the time when it was just starting to get hot. It rained, and I was like, "Oh, it's been raining for about an hour. go and check on the water butt and see how much it actually got. It was full.
Really? In
Yes,
1 hour?
yes, it was amazing how much water lands on your roof. The size of your roof is underestimated.
It's a big catchment area.
Exactly.
So-
and I was amazed. It was up past the top, like where it comes in. It was past that. It was
Wow.
It was past that where it comes in, and it was up to the top, flooding out the little hole in the top.
So,
And I was like, wow, I can't. I need another one.
so there you go. So you need to get up there, lime your roof, get yourself a water storage
maybe
tank.
I'll just have the backside for me for the garden, and the front I'll just put one for us.
Household water.
So if we need water, I think we know where to go.
Jack's house.
Like finding it. Wixham's is like a rabbit warren.
Oh dear. So, but that's a great. So you know, we're going to explore the whole areas of prepping in this series.
That was another act of prepping, wasn't it? I need water because there's a drought because my garden needs it.
But exactly, that's why I know it's dark at the moment when you arrived, and I've got my block paving outside, and I'm not. Usually once a year I go out there and I clean the block paving and re-sand it, and I must admit it gets dirty, so I tend to once a year I use, and obviously we pay for the water, but I use my jet wash to do that. But I didn't do it this year because we've had such a thing, and although officially in this area we weren't on drought, I just thought, well, no, I'm not going to be the one who goes out there and jet washes his path. So I've got, like, you know, it's a constant battle at the moment. We're weeding these weeds out of the cracks in my block paving. But the reason I mentioned that is then I went round to my mother's house, and the guy next door has got his jet wash out and he's washing his cars quite merrily, and that's it, because people have these kind of different attitudes. You know, I don't care, it's just water, you know, don't care if the reservoirs are drying up, I'm just going to use what I want.
There was a fantastic sketch about that I saw once. A guy, I wish I could remember where it was so I could say who it was, but it was a guy cryogenically frozen.
Oh yes.
And he wakes up in the future, something like 200 years in the future, and he gets talking to the guy who's woken him up, because he's woken up in the year 2200 or whatever it is, and he goes, oh yeah, blimey, can I have a drink? And he goes, no, there's not been any water for 70 years. I'm like, oh really? Yeah. What happened to it? And I said, well, just everybody used it. We've ran out of water. They did warn you, surely. And it's like, well, they did. What, did you do anything about it? No, we used to go outside and have water fights. Yeah. What? Yeah, we used to get a cup of water and we just rinse it out first, tip that down the drain, and then fill it up with water. The guy's looking at him in absolute shock and horror. It's like, you did what?
You wasted the resources.
No, I can't remember the end of the sketch. It was very funny. And he says, surely your government did something about it. And they went, to help save the planet. They went, yeah, they put a 5p charge on plastic bags.
Oh, well, that's it. Prepping. I mean, you talk about plastic bags. We went shopping the other day, and we always buy a roll of bin bags. So as soon as we get to the till, we open the roll of bin bags, put all the shopping in the bin bag, take it home. You see? And on occasion, I have been known to get to the car and take all the plastic that I don't want, that's wrapped up all around the stuff that we had to buy, and leave it in the trolley. Give it back. If everybody did that, the supermarket are saying we really do need to stop, because it's costing us all this money to get rid of all this plastic.
That's
you know,
idea. I
so
just don't
taking
use
it
plastic
home with
bags. I've got a lady come up to me.
I'm terrible. I always forget the bag for life.
Yeah,
get to the shop and get. Oh,
we've got them at home and we use them to carry the washing around the house.
Yep.
I forget to take them to the shop with me when I need them, so I'll have this trolley full of goods and stuff, and I'll get to the car and I don't put it in a plastic bag when I go around, and I don't put it in a plastic bag when I get to the till. And I had a lady come up to me in the car park. I was about 3 minutes into what is usually a 7 or 8 minute job of loading the car up of just individual cans and stuff. She goes, I love you for doing that. And I was like, do you? Because you've got a bag full of like plastic, shopping trolley full of plastic bags, so why aren't you doing it? If you love me for doing it and you feel that strongly, why are you not doing it? Just loading up my car. It's a bit longer, but you know.
No, I've done that many a time. Just chuck it in the back of the car and then unload it when you get home.
Exactly.
There you go.
It takes a bit longer, but it saves a plastic.
So there you go.
We're
money saving tips. Now they're 30p a bag.
We're getting environmentally friendly now, aren't we, guys? You know, it's like when I go to we're going off track.
Shopping tips with the Now We Know Show podcast.
Hey.
I always park the far side of the car park because there's always parking. There's always people who always fight to get near the front door, and you go, what?
Quite lucky I've got the kids, I always get the kids' spaces.
Oh.
My kid's grown up too much. Can't get away with it.
Have
I
I?
always thought when I was younger, I was like, surely, kids' spaces, that's so that they've got room to put the kids in there. It's not. It's so that the kids, when they slam the doors open, they don't hit other people's cars.
That's what it's all about. Oh, brilliant. So what have we learned on this podcast so far? Preppers are not mad creatures that dwell
I mean, they could
in
be.
bunkers.
They could be.
They could be. But they don't need to be. So don't be afraid if somebody says they're a prepper. Two, I think that hopefully we've instilled people to think that perhaps having a mind to do some small amount of prepping would save them from being
Yes.
caught out.
The trick is to turn it into a lifestyle as well, not just
A lifestyle.
Don't just think, oh, I've listened to a podcast, I'll go and buy an extra tin of beans. That's not enough.
It's my prepping beans.
My fighting trousers.
Yeah. Bring me my fighting trousers. That's it.
It's great because you could use the tin of beans as a weapon as well.
Multi-purpose. And then if you can recover it afterwards, you can empty it, eat the beans, and turn it into a hobo stove.
Or a lantern. Yeah, that's good. Or if you have two cans, you can put a piece of string between them and use them as a rudimentary communications device. Oh, we're just full of
Great ideas.
Great ideas. One thing, talking about canned food though, you see, now you would have seen probably from posts that I put up, when it comes to rotation, and we will talk about best befores and use bys and things, but you're always seeing me opening cans of
I've
food.
enjoyed your recent posts about
4 years old, you know.
I was like, well, he's going to feel rough in the morning. I feel fine.
I feel fine. I experiment on myself, you can say. Because it's part of this prepper's experimentation. I get food and I think, oh, hang on a minute, I forgot all about that.
Taking one for the team.
I'll tell you what, for this food, I found a box of food that Tina, my wife, had stored away, and I didn't even know it was there. And that's where recently I've been getting all these cans that are like 3 years out of date. And now I've been chomping my way through them just to prove to myself that actually that's fine. And it does make you concerned that how much people throw away, because these cans are literally 3 years old. Obviously, you've got to store cans, you know, cool, dry place, don't dent them.
Yeah. If everybody else out there is like my house, they've got a cupboard full of junk that they can empty.
so yeah, when we cover the best befores and everything, you know, that's one of those things that you shouldn't just be dumping food either, just because it's got a
Best before, not too bad after.
Yeah, that's a good way.
There you go.
And if they're Twinkies,
Maybe they should put like 3 dates on it. Best before. Yeah, you're probably all right. Nah, I wouldn't risk it.
I've got 2 tins of curry which sound rather ominous when you tip them up.
Oh.
They're meant to be like chicken curry in a sauce. Now you can imagine if you turn that upside down,
chicken curry in a jelly.
You kind of think that if you turned it, you wouldn't necessarily hear anything. But these curries are like you get this thunk and a very watery sound with it as well. You think that one I'm not sure about. I think I'll have to open
that one can go in the weaponry cans box.
that goes into the trebuchet.
Catapult!
Fire! Chicken curry! Quick! You know,
The mobs and the crowds outside your house.
you've come for food.
Yeah.
I have some chicken curry you might like.
Oh, I thought you were going to fire at them.
Please.
I do. Make a game of it.
Stay back.
Make a game of it. Thunk.
Headshot.
That
See?
great 40mm grenade sound.
Thunk. It's a part of your prepping, you see. You've got to see, how am I going to launch these cans that I don't use anymore?
That's just part of being a 14-year-old boy, isn't it? This is how can I put this into fire it somewhere really far.
Oh man, this is good fun. So we are going to be continuing this series, but when we rounding up this particular one, where we've covered such a lot on different angles on prepping, we always come to a section when we have a guest in called our 6 quickfire questions.
Righto.
Are you prepared for undergoing the quickfire question section?
Go for it.
Because you don't know what these questions are. I've jumped this on you.
Okay.
So you've got to answer. If you want to skip, you can say pass.
Okay.
Okay, but we're just... See, hopefully these are prepping-related questions.
Okay.
Ready for this, Jack?
Go for it.
Okay, so it's our 6 quickfire questions. Question number 1. Would you bug out or bug in?
With the family size I have, I think bug in's probably the best bet.
a subject we'll need to cover in a future episode.
If you don't know what bugging
If
in
you don't
and
know
bugging
what
out is.
bugging in and bugging out is. Question 2. Would you look to form a group or go it alone?
Tough question. Groups are better. I have a group of friends in mind, but yeah. Maybe
Are they
not.
reliable?
Are they reliable? He's
yeah.
looking to... Oh, your friends are listening to this going, oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Is he talking about me, yeah?
I don't know. They're quite reliable.
Okay, so group then, yeah? Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Specific group.
Are they corn-fed or not? Just in case the food runs out. Question 3. Okay. What's your go-to food of choice to have in your prepping stores?
Oh, goodness. Pot noodles.
Pot noodles. Okay, that leads me to a second question.
Yep.
What flavour? Say it.
Barbecue pulled pork.
Oh, right. I think we've only tried that once.
Yeah, I haven't tried that.
We always go for the
Bombay Bad Boy.
I've avoided that one.
Oh, it's really nice.
It is nice. The king pot noodle.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta go king. Anyway, question 4. Right, if the end of the world is nigh and you had a choice, what would be your preferred apocalypse?
My preferred apocalypse.
Yeah.
What? Oh.
So you've got the
I thought you were going to say what weapons would you
Yeah,
choose?
no.
How would you like to die?
This is your choice now.
Oh,
you're
goodness me.
choosing for the whole human race. What would the end of humanity is at stake, and you get to choose what apocalypse you would
Goodness
wish to
me.
face.
It's all on you, Jack.
It's all on you.
Pass.
We can't pass the apocalypse.
You can't pass it.
Okay.
You got to run up, knee death in the groin, and run away again.
What's never happened before?
Okay, let's choose the most likely one. Flooding.
Flooding. Have you got a canoe?
No, but I can swim.
Maybe one for the preps.
One for the preps. Yeah. Got a roof. 2-story building.
Onto the roof. Okay, question 5. What's your top prepping tip for people new to prepping?
Try and make it a hobby. You know, don't if you do it once and give up, that defies the point. You need to make it a constant thing, where make it a mindset, so that when you go out, you think, "Oh, I'll just get one extra."
So as you said, lifestyle.
Yeah, make
Yeah.
it a lifestyle.
Make it a
Basically,
lifestyle.
yeah, you can't.
Okay, question 6. What's your favourite post-apocalyptic film?
Oh goodness me.
He's thinking.
I'm thinking.
The eyes are rolling.
I'm thinking.
Come on, post-apocalyptic movie. Everybody watches post-apocalyptic movies.
Especially us.
Yes, everybody.
Terminator.
Terminator.
There you go.
This is the original Terminator. Terminator number 1?
Terminator 2. Judgment
Terminator
Day.
2.
There we
Judgment
go.
Day.
Yeah.
Which version?
Ah, yes.
Oh,
This is
goodness
direct-
me.
Is this the theatrical, the special edition, or the ultimate cut?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know what one I've seen.
You come into the. You're talking to the wrong film
films with the wrong people.
Right, Terminator.
I
2.
changed my mind. Bug out. Bug out.
Bug out, bug out. Right, so as Jack disappears into the distance, we're going to bring this around this particular podcast off. It's been fantastic having you in the studio, Jack. Hopefully some people have taken note of your wonderful suggestion on the blackout box for 15 quid or less.
I think we certainly have.
We certainly have. And thank you so much for coming in and spending your time with us.
No worries. It's been
Would
great.
you come in again?
Certainly.
Yes.
Yes, excellent. We love having special guests back.
Excellent.
Superb. So,
I should have been ready to do.
you should have been ready. It's okay, don't have to whisper.
prepared.
Damn.
A whole show about prepping. And he wasn't prepared.
He wasn't prepared.
I'm the comic relief, okay?
There is a kind of a sweet kind of justice there.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Check out the Zak Wylde Productions social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. Please get in contact. We'd love to find out how you're listening to us. So get in touch in the comments, and don't forget to check out Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon to become an official ZWP patron today.
I need to think of a prepping goodbye, don't
Honestly, you're not prepared.
I? I know. So that's a Lord Humongous goodbye from Buzz.
That's a baked bean goodbye from Zach.
And I'm going to bug out.
from Jack.
I'm out.
Hello.
Bye.
He's gone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hitting the floor, jam side down.
Oh, dear. You got to edit this.
Hello and welcome back to the Now We Know Show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learned something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zach.
I'm Buzz.
I'm Jack.
Yay!
Jack's back!
Yeah, I'm back.
It's Jack, Prepper Jack.
Yeah, Prepper
Okay.
Jack.
Prepper Jack. We've got him back in the studio. So in this week's episode, we're getting real festive. We've all got our Santa's hats on and we are basically
Channeling Santa.
channeling
the
Santa.
Christmas spirit.
Yeah, with our big ginger beards.
Yep, everyone has
We're-
ginger beards.
Yeah, we are our good old Viking Norse Santas.
Ho, ho,
ho,
ho.
ho, ho. And we are looking, since we're so festive, we're looking at our top 10 list of gifts that you can give to the holy trinity of preppers, bushcrafters, and survivalists.
If you enjoy the Now We Know Show podcast, why not support Zak Wylde Productions on our Patreon page? Become an official ZWP patron for as little as £1 a month for exclusive early access to all our latest episodes, videos, behind the scenes, updates and more. Okay, so before we get into that, it's time for Word of the Week.
Oh, word of the week. Word of the week.
Word of the week.
Word of the week. Join in, Jack. Word of the week. Word of the week. Word of the week. Word of the week.
So, the word of the week.
Sorry, Jack. We sort of jumped that on, Jack, didn't we?
So, Word of the Week is all about old English words we don't use anymore. All you have to do is write down what you think it means in the comments. We will then reveal what it means at the end of the episode so you can find out if you got it right.
What's the word of the week this week, Zach?
The word of the week is crepuscular.
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 Jack's looking a bit puzzled on that one.
Do you know what crepuscular means?
Do you know what crepuscular
I
means?
have no idea what
I'm gonna.
crepuscular
I'm,
means.
I'm
The
gonna.
challenge is to, 1, know what crepuscular means, 2, get it into a sentence.
Crepuscular is spelt Crepuscular.
Crepuscular.
No Googling.
Yeah, no Googling against the rules.
We will reveal what crepuscular
Crepuscular
means at the end of the episode.
That's all I'm going to think about for the whole episode.
Go on, say it, Jack.
Crepuscular!
Huzzah!
So, with Word of the Week out of the way for the moment, let's turn our attention to what we're doing. That is Crimbo presents, Christmas, Winterfest, Yule, call it what you will, for, as I mentioned, the holy trinity of preppers, bushcrafters and survivalists. Because you can't have one without the other generally. If you're a prepper, then you're bound to be into your bushcraft. If you're a bushcrafter, you're into your survivalism. If you're a survivalist, you're probably into your prepping.
Camping, stuff like that.
Exactly. So we've got this holy trinity, as I like to call it, of those areas. And if you know somebody who, they might be somebody who's been into those things for years, or they might be just starting out and would appreciate a gift this Yuletide.
Something, a treat.
Exactly, a treat. And so kind of what we've done is put together, I don't know what's on your lists, guys.
We've all got lists.
You've got our Santa's list.
Christmas lists.
Exactly. What I asked you to do was to write down your top 10 items that you would think about gifting somebody, with the only parameters on it that, because everybody's cash strapped at the moment everywhere, is to make sure that it was more of a kind of budget price gift. It doesn't mean that that's, a piece of tat.
Has to be reasonable.
Yeah, but you're not. What I did want you to do is to, as Jack said, stick down a Jackery power pack, for 250 quid, or
Good grief.
a set of solar panels and battery bank
All
and
the jackery stuff I get
Well-
advertised and sent towards me is like £2,500.
£1,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, money wouldn't be an option.
Exactly. So we're looking on like budget things that you can give to somebody. And what I also did was I went onto the social media sites, and I chose 2 social media sites which I find very helpful in the past, because if you have questions and things, you can bounce it off people. So I put the question out to those 2 Facebook pages, and basically got a lot of interest back, a lot of ideas off people as well. So that's our 4th list, if you like.
Okay. So
So
in total, it'd be like 40 items?
Yeah, so we've got ours. So what we'll do is we'll do it in reverse from what we've listed down as our 10th, and work our way back, and also look at the lists and see if there's a corresponding items that have been suggested, or items maybe on that list that aren't on our lists that we haven't thought about. Yeah?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. But what I will say, when it comes to Christmas, Yule, Winterfest, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to buying gifts for somebody who does prepping, bushcraft or survivalism, there is no such thing, and I'm going to stress this. There's a lot of people will say, oh, I don't want to get them something because they've probably already got it. Yeah? That is the wrong attitude.
Yeah.
When it comes
Yeah,
to
I would
this,
agree.
you can literally buy somebody 10 times over the same thing, and they're going to say, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
I've got
much.
some spares.
Because I've got spares, especially like if it's a tin of beans, 10 tins of beans.
But what's that saying?
There's a saying that we always use in the bushcraft and survivalism areas, and that is 2 is 1, 1 is none.
There you
Because if you've got 2 items, say 2 knives, 2 ways of lighting a fire, if you break one or lose one, you've still got 1. So 2 is 1. But if you only have 1 and you lose it, 1 is none.
I have a
You see,
similar sort of thing that my friend told me when playing Warhammer is, if it's worth taking 1, take 2.
There you go. So we working on that principle. Listeners, you can't go wrong. Don't scratch your head and think, oh, yeah, they've probably got one of these things. It doesn't matter, really. Honestly, it doesn't matter. How many knives can you accidentally buy someone?
The ideal number of knives.
Exactly.
N+1.
Exactly. We're talking about bushcraft knives, obviously.
Infinite knives.
It's infinite knives. So that's already one bit of stress off your shoulders. Okay, so shall we throw ourselves into it? Because I'm sure the listeners are eager to find out, and I'm eager to find out what you've got on your top 10s list. So we'll just start off from number 10. Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'm going to go first.
Okay.
A life straw.
Oh, you've put that down at number 10. Okay, that's
So
fine.
a life straw is basically a water filter, which means you can drink water from a river, a pond,
Anywhere.
anywhere,
I mean,
even a toilet.
okay, so
Wouldn't advise it.
but I think people have done that to demonstrate them.
Oh, fair
But
enough.
interesting thing about the life straw, now you can get all sorts of soya minis, all sorts of different filter systems out there, and they are very good. And going back to the last podcast about prepping, and we will go over this subject with you, Jack, you did bring up one of the big issues with your family, being a big family unit, was requiring fresh water.
Yes.
And what was the estimate you had on how much water you
I
need?
think it was something like 1,000 litres
Uh,
for all of us for a month.
1,000 litres for a month. Right, so you mentioned life straw.
Yeah.
By all means, in case I've got the figures wrong, I'm sure I haven't, off the top of my head. And you do get, now life straw is a bit like saying doing hoovering. Okay, you might be using a Dyson, but I'm just doing the hoovering, darling. It's a word that, yes, there are life straws, but there are also similar ones by other companies. And they all have variations on their filtering.
Well, my
So-
thoughts behind it were the fact that water is one of the key things you need for survival. So
Yeah.
I thought it's pretty cheap.
Okay, well,
You
that's,
might need it.
that's right. So the life straws come in around about, depending on the make and brand, because I say there's different ones, I think they could range from about £10 to £25 for
Precisely,
a life
it's an
straw.
affordable thing.
And the reason I bring it up about the question about water, Jack, is because they usually range between 1,000 litres that the filter's good for and 4,000 litres, I think is the the brand name life straw. The great thing with the life straws is, as well as what it's, that there's a clue in the name. You can literally stick it in your gob and suck through it out of a river, out of a puddle.
A muddy
whatever,
puddle, yeah.
muddy puddle. Or they have a thread on them, which is universal thread, which fits all fizzy drinks bottles. All fizzy drink. Yeah, have you ever
All right.
you ever lost a cap off a fizzy drink
Yep.
bottle and you've used a different lid?
Yep.
And it fits because they're all a standard size. So you can literally get a 2-litre Coke bottle, fill that up with dirty water, screw the life straw on the top, squeeze it, and pour
Yum,
out fresh
yum.
water out the other end. But it'll give you that
Yeah.
1,000 litres off one life straw.
Yep.
I mean, to be honest, would it last longer? Possibly.
What?
Well, it's guaranteed for like that much water.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you have to backwash the filter and things, but that's why a lot of backpackers will use them if they're touring out in the Far East and things, because it's always dodgy drinking water from places. So take
Yeah.
a life straw. But so that's your number 10. Over to Jack.
On my number 10, I put cooking pots.
Cooking pots. That's a good idea. So,
Yeah.
have you any range you have in
Well,
mind?
it was just not really. It was just I've seen them about and they are useful and they get damaged and.
Okay, so we're talking kind of your hanger pot over the fire type of cooking pots. Are we talking your
I put-
collapsible?
I put most of my things down as a general
Okay.
thing, so if you know the person, you know what sort of things they like and styles and things, you'll probably be able to find something that
Yeah,
fits their
I mean,
needs,
because you
they-
get
there's a huge
variations.
range.
You can go from your kind of small little mini canteen
Yeah,
kits
yeah.
that all go together and things.
No, it wasn't last year for Christmas I got you a cooking pot, funny enough.
You did actually.
What was that?
It is a brand name that I can't think off the top of my head what it is. It's going to come to. It's got red label. Any bushcrafters out there will probably know what it is.
But that's kind of like a small
Yeah,
to medium sized pot.
It was a
isn't
medium-sized one. That's got a folding handle, which means that you can improvise. If you haven't got a stand, obviously you can go and cut some hazelwood, whatever, make a hook, hang it over your fire, adjust
Yeah.
the
So,
height.
what was one of the reasons you wanted that?
Well, when I'm by myself out and about, I tend to like my Crusader kit, which is got its small little cooker stand. It's got one steel cup for cooking in, a plastic cup to go with it as well for hot beverages, and that does me as a single, keeping minimum kit down. Just real minimum kit. But sometimes it's nice to have a bigger pot that you can make bannock in, or you can do a stew in, or something like that. But that is not oversized. And again, they come in at a good sort of budget price. So yeah, pots and pans, good idea.
Good choice.
Do you know what I've got on mine?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so come in. I've got a woolen blanket. See, a good old
That's a
fashioned.
That's a sensible
A
choice.
good old fashioned woolen blanket.
Gonna
You know?
need that this winter with the blackouts.
There you go. You can't go wrong with a woolen blanket.
Oh no,
and
we're telling the future now on the Now We Know Show podcast.
and going back to what we said right at the beginning, you can't have enough woolen blankets.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. My
If
cupboard
you
is
want to
full of
keep
them at home.
warm, layer up.
Exactly.
Go
So
through my cupboard at home every now and then, the airing cupboard upstairs, and think, I must get rid of some stuff. And I look at it all and I get it all out and I go, I might need all this. And a
Yeah,
lot of it's
yeah,
blankets.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
I've got 6 people in this house. If the power goes out or, it becomes a bitterly cold winter, we're going to need blankets.
Yep, you got
there
it.
you go. So my blanket number 10, live straw, pots and pans, blanket. We're already building up a nice little store here for
Yeah,
anybody. I'm going to go to the list that I got off of social media, and what I've done is, as they came in, individuals gave me a suggestion. I just put that down one after another. Can't really break it up into a top 10, so I'll just keep reading one off every time. So the first one that came in on that was life straw.
Haha!
Yeah.
There
Yes.
you go.
Yes. Do we get like a snap point for that?
We're not giving out points. We're not giving out points. We're giving out good suggestions to the listeners.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got the live straw already came in there.
Yay.
Yay. Right, so we are going to move on to our number 9.
Number 9.
Are we going to stay on the same
Yeah,
round?
just go the same way.
Okay,
Zach.
same way. Okay, it's small. A British Army penknife,
Ah,
specifically for its tin opener.
very nice. Have you ever had
No, not.
Right, well, I'm familiar because I've got several of them. It's kind of enough. No, the British Army penknife, very basic, simple penknife, all steel. It's not got a fancy handle or anything on it. It has got a marlin spike
Spike,
on it,
yeah.
which is, people always, the spikes that people always say that are on penknives for getting stones out of horses' hooves,
Right.
when in fact what they're there are for loosening knots. The whole idea of that spike, I mean, you can use it like a bradawl
extremely handy.
for making holes in things, but ideally what they're designed for is to get, if you get real tight, you've got cold fingers, you can't get a knot
Undo your
apart,
shoelaces.
undo your shoe. You get the spike in and it just eases the knot apart. Oh, it's beautiful having one of those. But the other benefit, as you just said, with it, there's more than just one benefit, but the other benefit is it's got one of the best bottle openers going. Bottle openers, tin openers.
Yeah.
Probably open it. Well, you could open a bottle with it.
You can open anything with it. The blooming claw on it. It's huge.
It's got it's one of those kind of hooked beaked tin openers.
Yeah,
which
you
will
usually
go,
find it on like a penknife
yeah,
of
if
some
you,
kind.
lots of pen knives. It's the standard kind of one you have on most pen knives.
Like a Swiss Army knife
but
or
if you
something.
get a Swiss Army knife, they tend to be very small.
Little, tiny little hook.
Tiny ones. Whereas the British Army knife pen knife is just
Means the business.
It means you'd open anything with that. You know, you got a Frey Bentos pie, you're going to get straight into that.
Cans,
it's also
tanks.
it's also got a little sort of like straight-ended screwdriver or pry on the end of it, which is handy for prying.
The
and opening
marlin
things.
spike.
I need to see one of these.
The tin opener.
I'll show you one after the show.
The little screw bit you just mentioned.
Yeah, but also
and
the
a
blade.
knife.
Now, this is the other big bonus that I like about it. It's not a lock knife, okay, and the blade is 3 inches long, which comes into a legal carry.
Is that not an inch too long? I thought the
No,
illegal
3
carry was
inches.
2.
3 inches, and non-lockable. And it's also got what's known as a sheepfoot point on it, which means instead of having your standard kind of pointy end, it's cut off at quite a steep angle.
Okay.
So it would be pretty no good for stabbing somebody with.
Right.
You turn around and use the
Marlin spike.
spike.
We're not advising
We're
that.
not advising
Not
that.
advising that at all.
No, but as a pocket knife that is a legal carry, yeah,
It's a pretty good choice.
it's a good choice. So there you go. It's a very multi-purpose. Again, cheap to purchase because you can go to places,
Army surplus
stores, and pick them up second hand, which are in perfect condition.
Yeah.
So again,
And sometimes they even come in with little names scratched into
yeah,
them.
That's cool.
whoever's owned
I
it.
think mine's from Dave.
Dave.
Cheers, Dave.
So Jack, your number 9.
Right, my number 9 was a cooking kit / spice kit, which just handy to have to make all your meals a bit more
Spicy.
interesting.
Ah.
Not just spicy, but
No, that's
just
really
salt
good.
and pepper and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You
That
can
is
buy
really good.
kits
Yeah.
of those.
You obviously can go out and get your standard. What's the company that make a lot of those Schwarzkopf, those
Yep.
kind of spices? But you can collect smaller containers from other things, can't you? And then transfer the spice over, so you can have a lot of different choice, but in a smaller
Is this the
space.
Samwise Gamgee seasoning?
Yeah, exactly. That's
exactly.
it. Yeah.
You need a nice little
Everything needs
little
seasoning,
wooden
man.
box that you can put your own seasoning in.
Come on, Mr. Frodo, catch it!
What a brilliant suggestion.
Yeah, I didn't think of
a
that.
I
selection
think
of
that was
spices.
from James Fake.
Right,
I
right.
suggested that.
Thank you, James. You actually threw a memory into my mind then from years ago when Zach was just a wee lad, and you were in. I think it would have been it was before you were in the. No, actually, I don't even know if you were in the Scouts by that time or the Cub Scouts. You were very small, but myself and your mum Tina, we used to help out Scout leaders. We went on one of these, I think it was a father and son weekend with the Scouts. Where we were a place called Faisal's Wood near Watford. And you just, I've forgotten all about this until you mentioned it. One of the fathers of, obviously one of the Cub Scouts, he was a chef. And he brought a little plastic toolbox with him. But in that toolbox, he had exactly what you said. A whole range of different spices and his knife kit. So when it came to doing breakfast, because they would do competitions over the weekend, the best breakfasts and the best, and all the kids and the fathers would cook for all the leaders.
Right.
And so whoever got that father as the person cooking the dinner with their son, they had tomatoes which were like made into swans and roses.
Oh, really? Pulling out all the stops.
You get all the vegetables out and cut them all. And all the other fathers are going
Michelin star breakfast.
But that's all they were doing the entire weekend, right?
Yeah, it was brilliant. But yeah, spot on. Yeah, that was a good weekend. But spices, why not? Which comes then to me. What's my number 9? Small stove.
Oh,
Just a
cooking
small,
again.
small
Cooking again.
stove. What I had in mind with that is you can get lovely little fireboxes which are just collapsible. They can either fold out. A lot of bushcrafters will know what I'm talking about. They fold out, or they are made in sections that slot together. And it's a little firebox that you do exactly that. You use wood, tinder, wood, and feed your wood in there. So it's a lovely little firebox. You know, I use them myself. So you can have a real open fire, but it's contained and it's safe when you're out and about. Or the alternative, small gas cooker, if you just want to have the ease of having gas. But both items are budget price. You know, they're not going to cost you an arm and leg. And again, I don't think it's something that anybody's going to turn around and say, oh, I've already got one of those.
Yeah. What if the first one breaks?
Exactly. So,
What if you want to cook two things at once?
however, it does remind me of, again, something from last Preppers podcast.
Yep.
So if you haven't listened to it, listeners, go and listen to the previous podcast. It was mentioned in the blackout box, and you said you had a solid fuel stove in it. We had a comment on that one mentioning that you shouldn't use those indoors. We obviously weren't inferring to use it indoors, but it was a good point.
Yep.
So I just wanted to bring that up. If you do have anything like I just mentioned, a folding firebox or solid fuel outside. Obviously, if you've got a little gas cooker, that's a lot safer, and you can probably use that
if
inside.
you have a little fireplace, could you use it in that?
If you had an open fireplace, obviously no problem at all, because you normally have an open fire.
You're probably not using the cooker.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
You know, you're probably saying, why have I got this tiny little firebox?
Wait a second. Can I have saved myself some more money?
I could just literally have a fire. So brilliant. So, now it's over to the list that I had. So coming back down, so we've had the live straw. The next one was for dry bags.
Yeah, they could be useful.
Yeah, they could be very useful. You know, I mean, everybody needs dry bags.
But when do we use dry bags?
Oh gosh, we use them all the time. If we're going out bushcrafting, always put stuff into dry bags, because you want to keep your wet clothes separate from your dry clothes. You want to keep your dry clothes dry, just in case you get any leakage in backpacks.
Well, thinking of
something like that.
specific situations
We
when
use-
we go canoeing,
Where we go
and
canoeing.
paddleboarding and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Exactly, canoeing, paddleboarding, and I use a dry bag which doubles up as a drag float
Yeah.
when we go wild swimming. Do you know what I'm talking about there, Jack?
Yeah,
Yeah,
attached
so-
to your foot.
Yeah, it's attached around your waist. On your foot, it'd be a bit, you'd be worried about tangling up around your other ankle. But it's attached to
I'm
your
in
waist,
distress.
drags behind you. It notifies other people that are using,
boats.
say, boats, or especially around the coast where they're using a lot of
Jet skis.
jet skis. That's it. They can see the orange things. But
Better not drive over that.
yeah, but our original drag floats were exactly that, just floats. And they're quite handy, because we do, when we get the chance, coastal swimming. So we choose a spot on the coast to park up, and then we'll put our wetsuits on, because you need wetsuits to be in there all day. And we'll literally swim, say, 5 miles down the coast, exploring the caves, exploring the cliffs, hidden
Places you
beaches.
can't normally get to.
Places you can't normally get to, and you need a wetsuit. And obviously we have the dry bags, the drag floats with us, and then hit the coastal path and walk back, because we have our dive boots on, so you can walk back along the coastal path to where you originally parked. It's a day out, great fun. But there was always the issue of, you got your car keys,
Phones.
all these things,
How
and
are you gonna
then
deal with that?
and then hurrah, they started designing drag floats which were actually also a dry bag.
Yeah.
So you could put all your stuff in the dry bag and then blow it up.
Take it
Job
with
done.
you.
So yeah, dry bag, drag float.
There you go.
There you go.
On to my number 8 now, I guess.
Number 8, yeah, go for it.
Okie dokie. My number 8. Simple one, but effective. A torch.
Torch. Awesome.
I'd be very happy if someone bought me a torch for
Yep.
Christmas.
Again, an item you can't have too many of. Head torch is my favourite type of torch.
Especially when bat surveying.
Yeah, I mean, when we do bat surveys, and good point you bring that up, actually, because have you got head torch, Jack?
I actually don't yet. I'm
Okay, put
in
it
the
on you.
market for one.
Put it on Jack's Christmas list. So, a head torch. I think we briefly discussed it, because you can get head torches which are battery powered. Well, they're all battery powered, but head torches which you put batteries in, or head torches which are USB chargeable
That
ones.
was the problem I had when looking for one the other day.
Yeah.
Was most of them are USB rechargeable.
See,
now.
that's the thing. I still. I mean, by all means, listeners comment below about any you might recommend that are USB chargeable. But I find the fact is, if you're stuck and you kind of run out of any way of recharging it.
Especially if it's like power sockets or anything.
Yeah. You have to be very forward thinking. I mean, even with
If you've got like a big battery somewhere that you can plug in,
battery bank that you can recharge it off of, or if you've got your vehicle,
it's kind of adding extra links into that chain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a simple battery one and you've got some spare batteries, and you can pick batteries up most places.
Should be sorted for a couple of days.
Also, it takes you 2 seconds to change a battery rather than having to wait 4 hours to charge it up
That's
again.
that's a good comparison, actually. Yeah.
But there is another factor to them, and that is there are generally most of them are white light, red light, and red blinking light. I was actually asked why do they blink, and that is just an international emergency signal that it's red blink. So if you were
Help! I'm on a mountain.
I'm on a mountain, if you set it to red blinking, it's kind of an internationally recognised thing.
Warning! Go away! Danger is here. No, come back!
Come back.
It was the other setting.
Yes, it's the other setting. However, because we do bat surveys, there are ones you can get now that have a green light.
Okay.
And I actually find the green light for when you've got things in front of you.
Yeah, like writing on a bit of paper.
On paper.
and stuff.
The red light, kind of up close and personal, kind of does my eyes in a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of hard focus. Green light.
Green one.
Beautiful.
Brilliant.
Really, I would highly recommend green light head torch.
The red light's not to affect night vision, isn't it? So you can turn it off and you can still see.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the green works.
Does the green do the same?
Haven't had any issues with that because, as I say, when you're doing bat surveys, dawns and dusks, you're using your monitoring equipment anyway. You're using your visual, to see if you can see the bats when they're out and about, and then when it gets so dark that you're on that cusp, you can or can't see them, then you're focusing on the monitoring equipment that you're using to hear the bats, but you want to keep your lights off. But then when you pop the green one on to write, I don't find any sudden issues with once I've turned it off again that it's affected the vision.
I suppose if you're looking at the screens and things, then maybe it's that you've already.
Yeah, but anyway, green.
Yeah.
Try it as an
Very
option
cool.
if you haven't got one. Green. So
That was number 8 for me.
that was number 8 for you, right? So it's over to Jack then for his number 8.
So my number 8 was your last one, which was camping stoves.
Hey.
That
was yours.
Was it yours?
Yes, it's Carl.
Which I also put, if you want to be a bit more extravagant, Kelly kettles. They're quite
yes.
pricey, but
Well, I do have a Kelly kettle, and although I tend to use it just for boiling larger quantities of water separate from my cooking for making our brew, a friend of ours, Sarah Downing, do you know Sarah? She uses the base. She's got an adapter for the base so you can take the actual top kettle off and use the base as just a cooker on its own.
okay,
That's cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Kelly
so
kettle.
there you go.
Yeah, would another one kind of be like a Trangier or something, a Trangier kit?
Yeah, Trangier kit, because we've got a couple of those knocking around. They're the ones that are like you got a frying pan on the top. What is it? Two different size saucepans in there.
Yeah.
An outer one, which isn't a saucepan. That's kind of like you put your Trangier in it. It's a windshield.
Yeah.
There's usually a kind of a donut ring as well, which sits on top of it.
Tell you what, the most handy
I
aspect
know where he's going with
of
this.
the Trangier kit is the handle.
Of the handle. Have you ever seen a Trangier
No.
handle? It's kind of like a crocodile jaw.
Yeah, that when you hold it, it clamps
so
on.
the actual saucepans don't have handles.
Right.
They've got a little rolled edge on them, and this handle just goes over the top, and you pinch it like pliers, and you can transfer things around. But they're just great for picking up.
Get rid of the Trangier, just use the handle on literally anything. Tin of beans, overflyer, done.
Tin of beans, anything. So yeah, that's a really handy.
And we
handle.
recently just bought some of those handles
Yeah,
because I didn't
unfortunately,
know,
I went into Trangier
Yeah.
and the handle disappeared.
and I didn't know that you could actually get them separately. So
there's a tip.
extra recommendation there.
Yeah, if you just the handle.
Just the
please.
handle, just the handle.
Just the
Other
handle.
stuff, that's luxury extra.
Luxury extra, yeah. So there you go. Then you get again back to the budget. Forget the rest of the Trangier, just get a handle. And of course, the other part of a Trangier is the actual Trangier cooker. Which again you can buy separately, which are you can use methylated spirits or you can use the biofuels in them. And again, they're pretty handy. They actually fit in most of the Crusader, British Army Crusader cooking kits and things. A lot of this stuff is interchangeable. Going back to the folding firebox that I mentioned, again, if you don't want to have an open fire by using wood in them, you can put a little Trangier stove in them. Most of them will fit the Trangier stove all right, so you can cook over that. So a lot of this stuff is quite purposed.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Good suggestion, that one. My number 8 is supermarket vouchers.
Interesting.
I
I'm
have
interested.
received those as a present before. They were useful.
Well, I was thinking about this. A lot of people, a bit strapped for
Yeah,
cash.
I'm
and
interested
things.
to see your justification for this.
Well, one of the things that a lot of people that prep do like to stock up on their food.
Mm-hmm.
They want to go and buy tins and buy this and buy that.
What you've done is buy them free food of
So
their
what you've
own
done,
choice.
you just say, okay, I might not know exactly what to get you.
Okay, so this would probably be in like reference to pre-apocalyptic situation.
Well,
It would help them to prep for an apocalyptic situation.
yeah.
Okay, I get that
Just
reason.
if you think that somebody, if you really got that kind
Because
of...
as soon as it gets to like apocalyptic situation, I don't think they're going to be accepting vouchers.
or
I think most
gold.
people are going to be screwed anyway because they won't be accepting cards. No one carries cash anymore.
Which actually does throw up a thing, because there was an article that came on, I think it was in Kent, that a prepper had his house raided. Or the chap,
Oh, I saw this.
yeah, he'd had his house
That was
raided.
today, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the article wasn't huge, so it didn't really give you the details. But the police had raided this person's house, and he would have seemed to have been kind of, from reading the article, it seemed like he was maybe fortifying his house or doing something. But there was no actual reason given in the article, an exact reason of why his house had been raided by the police. But the police raided his house and found that he had an illegal, unlicensed sawn-off shotgun behind his fridge. But he also had something like, I think it was 6 or more legally owned guns in gun cabinets.
Yeah, didn't they say like crossbows and things?
Yeah. But he... And
I can see my crossbow from here.
The reason I mentioned you saying about the apocalypse is because the reporter who'd obviously written the article was very unfair on preppers.
Yeah.
Because
It was the wording, wasn't it?
it was the wording, because
It wasn't great.
the chap in court was asked by the judge, are you a prepper? As if that's some kind of weird thing. Are you a prepper? And
Because it kind of suggested they were paranoid.
apparently, yeah. Well, he was given. He's meant to be going to another court hearing about the possession of the illegal firearms, but he's had all his other firearms given back to him because they're all legal, which seems a bit weird. But he himself said that he's not out to hurt anybody or anything like that. But the article made out that he had a secret room and he had tins of food stored
under the floor.
away. Yes, it.
Tins of food in a cupboard? Shock
They
horror!
weren't in the cupboard, they were under the floor.
No, but ultimately the reporter described it that he's a member of a small eccentric group of preppers who
Live in fear.
Of societal
of
breakdown.
societal
Yeah.
collapse,
Yeah.
and natural disasters. And it's like, no, preppers. That's not
I
prepper.
said this to my wife Amy. I said, look at this, and she went, well, that's the opposite of what a prepper is. If anything, they're not scared of it because they're prepared for it.
I know, and
you. Yes.
also you've seen so many programs on the moment saying, make sure you're prepared for cold weather coming. Make sure you get this. Make sure.
But they
So-
won't call you preppers.
They won't call them preppers, but they're advising everybody to be preppers.
Yeah. You must resort to the old ways.
Yes, don't get raided to find you've got food in your cupboard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Stored tins. You're obviously one of those eccentric.
Like they're having
know what it was?
programs, yeah.
It was the sawn-off shotgun, and he had the weaponized tins of food. That's what it was. This one is too far gone, and it's for the trebuchet.
There you go, that was a reference to the other episode.
Exactly.
Because aren't they having like
so,
TV programs and
Don't
stuff?
get me wrong. If he's done something
Yeah.
illegal and he's being picked up by it, then that's the law and needs to be dealt with. But the whole inferring that anybody that is a prepper is some kind of weird eccentric that lives, as you said, Jack, in fear.
And then on the other side, they're having like TV programs where it's like, if you get cold, put on a blanket.
Put on a blanket. Buy some extra blankets.
As if
The blanket
somebody
you got as a gift
don't
from
know.
our top 10 list.
they don't know how to keep warm. Like, come on.
So yeah, mine was supermarket things, because that way somebody, if they want to stock up their food stores, but you don't know exactly, they might have, say, a food that they don't like or they could be allergic to. So it gives them the opportunity to enjoy a shopping trip out and buy themselves some stuff for their food stores, or use those vouchers for something else. But I would really think if I got vouchers for a supermarket that it's probably foodstuffs I'd be looking to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. So now let's refer to the next one on the list from social media, and that's hot water bottle. Well, hot water bottle and blankets, but we'll go hot water bottle because I've already mentioned blankets.
Several times.
So, hot water bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with a hot water bottle.
Just a way of keeping warm.
Exactly. I think they could do a brew in it as well.
Yeah, as long as
have it later on.
As long as you've got a way of heating up the water,
Exactly.
you're good.
On one of the small stoves we've spoken about, using the water filter.
Using the transient.
The live straw, exactly.
Yeah, it's all fitting together.
Yeah, so thank you for that
It's
one.
almost like we know what we're talking about.
Thank you, Jane Edwards, for that suggestion. Right, which brings us to, we're getting down our Christmas list now.
Yeah, my number 7.
Your number 7.
Okay, it's a bit big one.
Oh.
Army surplus backpack.
Yeah, a lot of people do ask the questions.
Yeah, you got to have somewhere to store all your stuff,
Yeah, I mean,
especially if you're out and about.
Yeah, if you're doing wild camping,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing bushcraft, you want to go out, doesn't have to be on a regular basis, but you still need to carry your gear, then you're going to need a backpack of some sort. Some of them can be exceedingly expensive.
I have noticed.
Yeah, but if you want something that is, because I've got British Army.
It's got to be versatile and durable.
Exactly. So I've got ex-Army.
I think
packs.
ex-army is basically the way to go, because as soon as you go into something like go outdoors or something,
most of those.
I've tried like a Van Gogh hiking backpack several times. They've always broken because it's always
the plastic clips.
But it's
aren't
supposed to be the
durable.
highest of qualities, and it breaks them the first time you go hiking. It's
Yeah.
like what? That's ridiculous.
Whereas my old Army one is just like.
I think
Ombre.
I've
Isn't-
got a 30-year-old army one.
Isn't mine like a however many litre?
Yeah, yours is the
engineer one or
Yours is the
something?
turtle. The
Have
turtle
you got the
backpack.
square one?
Yeah.
It
You got the
fits a big square a toolbox. It's for carrying those. Is that one?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and whereas I've got the standard
Yeah.
backpack, and with and of course you get the
External pouches.
You
Yeah.
get the external zip-on and off pouches, which you also can get the separate yoke.
Yeah.
You can put those pouches on.
That is
Makes
one
it-
of my extras on the list. I've put pouches.
Makes it look like a jetpack.
Okay, yeah. So you go jetpack. In fact, the last time I used that is when we went to go caving in Wales. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And then we went on a real big cave system down there where
Spent an entire day underground.
I
It was great.
needed because we were underground all day. Needed to take a pack lunch. Didn't want to take a big backpack, so I just popped the side pockets off the pouches off the
Few
side.
clips.
That's it.
Backpack.
Are these
some.
caves you can stand up in, or are these the
No, no.
fear-inducing caves that I've seen online where people
Actually-
are squeezing through them? I'm like, there's no way I'd get back
I
through that if I
can't-
went through that way.
I can't,
It varied sometimes.
I can't remember the name. I can't remember.
Claustrophobic just watching.
Can't remember the name of it.
It was in Wales.
Yeah, some of it was natural cave system, but the majority of it was a slate mine.
Yeah.
But it was an old slate mine that is. I think it takes you down to the deepest place you can get
I'd
to.
love to go down there, but I think I would freak out.
But it was well done because
It was the great bit
a lot of it was
where
a
you're like
combination of
stepping
scrambling.
through the water, balancing on that kind of balance beam.
Yeah, we got right down to the lowest part. We couldn't go any lower. And I say we were in there for
So it's
seven
like,
hours. or
don't step down there. There's a big hole.
something. But
You'll
what,
get swept under.
yeah, because
Okay, I
would
guess I won't do that.
back in the day, they had pumps that kept the water getting pumped out. But obviously, it's not bad. It's abandoned as a
You
mine
just got
now.
a big abyss in front of you, and you're just like,
Okay.
That goes down a
looking
bit.
at it, but the videos give me claustrophobia when I'm watching them.
Yeah, but they'd actually put some scaffold poles that you could step on the scaffold poles, which are about an inch or two under the water.
yeah.
That you could balance your way across.
Yeah, you're going to have to hold onto this chain and kind of just make your way.
Shimmy your way.
You have to duck a bit here and kind of.
And then every so often we get to a chasm which they'd already put a
zip line or
zip line
something in.
across, and then you'd hook yourself on the zip line and literally disappear off into the dark.
Into the
Sounds
nothing.
Incredible.
And we were down there 7 hours.
Isn't it like the longest zip wire underground? I think we went.
I couldn't tell you on that, but we had that jump at the end.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that was the extreme part.
It finished off at the end. Now I climb, Zach climbs, and it's kind of I'm not scared of heights when I know I'm secure. If you take me to the edge of a building or the edge of a cliff and I've got no I'm not secure,
Uh-huh.
then I
I get that.
get the collie wobbles.
Yep, I
you
love
know?
climbing,
But
yeah.
if I know my anchor points are true, I'm hooked on.
All good.
I'm happy to
I feel
abseil off
secure.
of anything.
Yeah.
you know?
I'll lean off this. It's
I'll lean
fine.
off it. I'll abseil, go forwards, abseiling, whatever, not a problem. But if I'm not connected to anything, I don't like that.
I've climbed things not connected to things, and I'd rather climb something where I know I'm holding onto something solid. I've got big racks at work, and rather than go and get the ladder, I'll just climb them, and you're good 18 feet up in the air or whatever. And I would rather climb up the rack knowing I'm holding onto a solid rack that I built, rather than use the ladder that I know could fall over.
But wasn't it? It was a leap of
we
faith.
knew at the end of the day we were going to get to this place called the Leap of Faith, and it was a little plank that was into this abyss, and it's pitch black.
You can't see the bottom.
And I think it was
thinking about
I think it was about 100-foot drop
Yeah.
into this place, and they'd got one of those self-breaking cables,
An auto
I hate
belay.
those
an
things.
auto beat. Yeah, I don't like.
They're a bit dodgy.
But you see, in my mind, I'd got in my mind that I would hook my climbing gear up to this belay and give the little belay a little pull. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, okay.
I'm happy with that.
Happy
Happy
with
with that. And then you literally just stepped off into the abyss until it kicked in and slowed you down, and then
Do not trust.
when you got
Do not trust.
when you got right down the bottom, there had some mats at the bottom, but you couldn't see anything, from the top.
But what was the thing about it?
Oh man! So I went straight away. I went, "Who's going first?" I went, "I'll go first. No problem. I'll go first. Get it over done with, sorted." Standing on this plank, hooked up, but they got the belay. It was just dropping down into the.
Well, it was attached to like a bungee cord.
It was, and it's like, okay, now I feel really like I'm
'Cause
not
it was just
attached to anything. It's
drooping
like
off the edge. It
You
was
just had to
loose.
hold the cable up next to your shoulder so you didn't get whipped in the face, and then it just dropped down into the darkness and came back up to the belay above you, and it's like.
It wasn't tight at all. It was like
And I'm thinking, why did I say I'll go first?
something in the subconscious saying, "Don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
It was
Why are you doing this?
It was
Stop."
it was a real battle, because I'm telling myself they're not going to throw me off
It
here.
must
and
be safe.
It,
It
must
must
be
be
safe.
safe.
It just didn't.
But what if it's not?
It just didn't feel safe. But eventually, foot off.
And that was good when Tina had to go on.
Bungee
Oh, yeah.
jumping to my children this morning, and
What?
they looked at me the same way I'm looking at you now, like, why would you do that?
When we got down the bottom, actually, then you could see the opening at the top,
Yeah.
100 feet up above us.
You're all right. It's fine. I
It's fine,
survived.
We survived. And then Tina
Did you
came
not
on. We
just
got.
scream when you got to the bottom like you
No,
did
no,
before?
Tina did that.
Tina screamed
screamed
twice.
She screamed as she left the top and then screamed as she came down.
It was quite dramatic.
It was fun. But
It
she
made
enjoyed
the trip.
It made the trip. She enjoyed it. But we've got completely off track. But the point was, as I used the yoke system
Yes.
with the pouches as my backpack, because it was a real neat little system and small enough to go down the
Very
caves
much
without
so.
any
Very
issue.
much
So
so.
yeah,
Sound suggestion.
no, it's your suggestion, isn't
Yeah, it
it?
was mine.
It's your suggestion. So you don't have to go for an expensive backpack because you can pick up a cheap
Army surplus.
Army surplus one. Doesn't have to be British Army surplus. It could be anything, But there you go. So the backpack.
Right, so my number 7 then, is it?
Mhm.
My number 7. I have got a set of cookses or camping cups.
Cooksers.
Cookses,
Good old
who's
cooksers.
aware of
You
what
can't be a
cookses are?
bushcrafter without a cookser.
I know, I want some. I really want some. And
Although, I take issue with this.
I really like them. They're not
say
at all, I don't think they're very practical. You can't
No,
put them over a fire or anything. They're just beautiful things
No,
to have. And I would love some.
They are beautiful, and I haven't carved. I've got spoon knives and things for carving, and I've made lots of spoons and bits and pieces, but I've not done a cookser yet.
Tip. Always be careful with spoon knives.
Yes, says the person.
I have the scars to prove it.
He's got a big scar on his wrist.
Yeah.
They're very sharp.
I couldn't tell you what all the
It was actually a
Yeti.
Yeti. just emphasising that now. It was actually a Yeti, not a
yes.
spoon.
It's a
knife.
Yeti bite. That's what it was.
It wasn't Cocaine Bear.
I think,
Yeah, that trailer.
I say, joking when I say I've got an issue with cookers. The fact is they become so iconic as every bushcrafter has to have one hanging off their
Yeah.
backpack. But because they are very much associated with Scandinavia, with Finland and places like that, but we have our own. An old Anglo-Saxon word boon was a cup or a vessel, and we have our own
Okay.
wooden
Oh,
cups.
I want
I
a
just-
boon.
I-
Yeah, the Vikings had wooden cups. I
I know they're not practical, but I just find them so beautiful. I would
they're
love
fine.
those.
But
And,
if you want to be a bushcrafter, Jack, you've got to have one.
I like the word boon.
Boon, yeah, boon is an old Anglo-Saxon word for a drinking vessel.
And that's
And I
not
think-
the word of the week.
And I think a very
Which was crepuscular.
Crepuscular.
Yeah,
and
I remembered it.
a lot of wassailing. So if you've heard of wassail or wassailing, that's an Anglo-Saxon word for basically good health, and they have wassailing ceremonies and things. And a wassailing cup was a circular cup that was generally, it could be metal, pewter or whatever, but again wooden. But it had a double, like a cookster has one wooden handle, it has two, and you'd basically pass it around everybody and give everybody, wish them wassail, good health. So yeah, every culture has its own cups.
Very cool.
So you don't have to have a cookser. You can have a boon instead.
Well, so I included in that
Having a
slash camping cups, and that would be things like the Crusader cup.
Yes.
I've got one of those. It's very useful.
Yeah, it's the metal Crusader cup.
definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want a nice little thing, again, nobody's going to turn down not having a nicely carved.
Exactly.
Cookser. And I think they're a reasonable price. You can get those at.
I'm not sure. I just know I want some.
Look on Wish. Look on Wish. I don't know what might turn up.
They'll be made of polystyrene.
I don't know what might turn up. But I know you can get them on Wish. Right, so we're on number 7, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay, and my one is a small first aid kit.
Yes.
Useful.
Yeah, a good. I will expand talking about first aid later on, but a small first aid kit, because again, you don't want to be out. You've got your backpack, you've got your woolen blanket, you've got your cooking gear and your spices and everything else, and you're making yourself up a meal. Damn, I've cut myself, and I'm not sure.
Spoon knife.
not sure which bracket fungus I need to peel to use as a plaster. I know. I've got a little first aid kit that was given to me for Christmas. It's got plasters in it. It's got a bit of gauze. There you go. So a small first aid kit. Because again, you might say, oh, well, okay, somebody might have first aid kits, fine, but you can chuck a first aid kit in the car. You can chuck a first aid kit in your
I have
backpack.
a car one and a house one and a work one.
Plus, everybody in your household can have a first aid kit.
What would the small first aid kit include?
Oh, it's usually plasters, gauze, antiseptic wipes, safety pins, bits and pieces. You can even add to it if you want to put some.
A couple of headache tablets or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point. So you can go out and you can get, again, for your preppers, they want a store of painkillers. So you get ibuprofen and paracetamol. They're all dirt cheap. You can get creams like Savlon, Germaline, things like that. You can add to your kit as well.
Have a base one and then just kind of build it up.
Burn gel is a good one.
Yes.
It's sort of like a full skin gel.
Could have done with some of that today, and my first aid kit didn't actually have any in.
All right, put it on the
exactly.
Put it on the Christmas
I
list.
think I ran out. Burn myself fairly regularly on exhaust.
Stick it in the bag. Stick it in the bag. Right, so
my Amazon wish list is getting larger as we speak.
He's got it open right now.
That's the whole point of this podcast. Hopefully, we're giving other people ideas. So I'm going to go back to my social media list. So what have we got? After the last one was hot water bottles. So we have a single burner stove. So we've already had the stove. So another good suggestion.
So what was that?
Single burner stove. So the stove has come up again.
My number 6. A single burner stove.
Oh, great. So, we don't need to discuss that too much because we've already gone
through so many different burners and bits and pieces.
And bobs. Briefly, I like gas. You can get gas one, small gas cylinder, but if you run out of gas and that's all it can do, you can do nothing else with it. So,
Happily have more than one.
Yeah. Okay, so that's
my number 6.
Number 6. So.
My number 6 also doesn't need discussing. We've already discussed it. Head torch.
Hey! Head torch. Well, that's going to chuck me straight onto my number 6. Thankfully, guys, I've got something different now.
Oh, yeah?
I have an axe puck sharpening stone.
Axe puck.
Yeah. Have you know what an axe
puck?
puck
I think
sharpening
I've
stone
not
is?
seen them.
An axe puck.
Yeah, right. An axe puck sharpening stone. It doesn't have to be necessary for an axe, but people listening may well understand what I mean. Or you can do a Google search for an axe puck or just a puck sharpening stone. It's just looks like what it sounds like. It's a circular disc, like a hockey puck.
Okay.
Some of them have little shaped edges on them to put your fingers in and things. One side a finer grit, one side a coarse grit. Use it for sharpening your axe, hatchet, knives.
I'm going to add one of these to my
list.
And
you can buy them by themselves. A lot of them come with a little leather pouch or a little camo pouch, blah blah blah. But everybody's going to have some kind of sharpening system generally. I don't, people will go out and buy those kind of sharpening tools you can buy, where you run the knife blade through like two metal jaws, but they kind of peel the steel off your blade.
Mine isn't recommended because if you have any burrs on your knife, you will shatter your window. But the top of your car window works extremely well for sharpening knives, and the bottom of a ceramic mug.
There you go.
Wasn't that a thing with knife sharpening? Is like sometimes when they're actually making the knives nowadays, it kind of has like a double bevel to make it really difficult to actually sharpen stuff.
So it's, they have like a bevel they cut into the blade, so it's a bevel edge, and then they put the edge on the bevel, so you've got a very small edge on the bottom of the bevel. And some people go to the extremes of grinding out the bevel. A lot of people like you. No, sorry.
Why would they do that?
It's machine made.
Easier to make. You've got the it makes you buy more knives.
You've got the thickness of the.
As soon as it's got repeat custom. That's what it is.
So you got the thickness of the steel, and they literally just grind it out with like circular bevel on each side, and then literally just put an edge on that, which I'm not against because I've got some bevel edged knives and I can sharpen them fine, but
comes with practice.
Most people, again, bushcrafters, will use the term Scandi grind. A Scandi grind is a bit similar to what's known. You can punch this up, listeners. If you look at different grinds for putting on a knife edge, you can Google that, and you'll probably find a little picture, which is a good description. Look at the picture, and it will show you the different shapes of them down. So a Scandi grind is literally just a V shape. A sabre grind is, I think, a little bit more thinner on that side to a Scandi grind, and they are the preferred edges. You don't have to mess about with that. I do an Anglo grind because, funny enough, Anglo-Saxons also used to grind their knives and swords and instruments in the same way as the Scandinavians, but I use an Anglo grind.
There you go.
Just to be different. So, you could call it a Scandi grind, but I'll call it an Anglo grind.
Anglo grind and your boon sorted.
I've got my Anglo-Saxon cup. I've got my Anglo-Saxon knife edge.
There you go.
There you go. But yeah, so everybody has a sharpening system. Some people go for the ones where they're very complex, if you like, even to the point of where you would put marker pen.
Yeah, I've seen entire desk setups.
That's an engineering thing. It's called engineering blue, and you put it on things when you grind it.
And then you grind it off until it's gone. Like that. Whereas being a good old-fashioned carpenter myself and cabinet maker, that I've sharpened knives and chisels and tools and plane blades and things up for years. And I just do it naturally. I don't really think about it. You can get things that you can say attach to chisels to keep the angle right, and then you can run it down the sharpening stone. But again, I just kind of do it naturally.
I just do it with an angle grinder.
At the end of the day,
it's not great, but it works.
At the end of the day,
not good if you haven't got power.
No. At the end of the day, if you were out in the wilds, you've been in a plane crash and you've got to survive, and you've got I found a
surviving against timber wolves.
Yeah, and I found something that I can use as a knife.
I've seen that.
The grey with Liam Neeson.
Grey. That's it. As long as you haven't fallen into the grizzly maze, you're all right. Or grizzly.
Those small tequila bottles, smash them on a rock, duct tape into your hand, boom, done.
This has gone very off.
That's from the Grey, okay? It's the end scene.
Anyway, but so
might be a whiskey.
You can put an edge on most things, or even if you need to, you just get a flint and do a bit of flint napping, get an edge on it. Or use a piece of glass, as you mentioned, a broken bottle. Knives. A lot of people get scared about sharpening things. How do I sharpen it? But, you just practice and you can get an edge on most things, and as long as it will cut and do what you needed to do, job done. Anyway, so that was your number
6.
Number six. So. And my number... No, that was my number 6.
That was your number 6.
That was my number 6.
I'm just saying it was number 6. Right. We've all done number 6.
We've all done number 6. So we're on to our list of the social media list, which comes to... And it's a pocket SAS survival guide. So I would put that down as knowledge. Yeah, you've mentioned that before. A great gift. And again, it can be. There's so many different books. Come back to this in a bit, but Pocket Survival Guide. I don't think that, again, it's something that you can double up on. It doesn't matter.
Because you're going to get the 2017 edition compared to the 1989 edition.
I think I've got the original SAS Survival Guide, which is quite a big, hefty book.
Isn't that big square one?
Yeah, it's the big square one.
And then later on, we've got that kind of extreme survival book that you got me.
Yeah. Because they all have tips in. It's like most books. When you're doing any subject, you'll have books and you go, I've seen this tip 10 times. And then
that makes it a good tip.
And then sometimes you'll come across an obscure tip that you have not seen in any other books.
It's an interesting comparison, isn't it?
Tip.
Interesting comparison.
So it's kind of like, he or she has got so many books. Getting another book, they're not going to find that a worthy gift. Well, that's wrong, because there's always something there. And even if you have two of the same book, sometimes you'll have.
You can use it as lighting a fire.
That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, if you've got a small little book, you can have one at the side of the bed that you can use for just some light reading, one in the bog, one in the car, one in the backpack,
And you're sorted any time.
Exactly. And if you've watched John Wick, you can use it as
a weapon.
As a weapon.
The new one comes out.
That's why you get odd looks in the library.
Yeah, it's I'm picking the book up, going, okay, wait, yeah, okay, you can hold this nicely. Not too many pages. Good hardback.
When that 7.5-foot giant walks around the corner and assassinate you.
Exactly. Don't underplay it. There's nothing worse than a paper cut.
Okay, on to my number 5.
Ooh, number 5.
A British Army Crusader kit. I think we've already kind of covered that.
Crusader kits under the cooking.
So my one, was a foraging guide book.
Foraging guide,
More
excellent.
knowledge and
More
things.
knowledge.
I have one. I got it a couple of months back. I've yet to actually go foraging, but we found a very rare mushroom in Flitwick Woods, and I went straight home and I looked in my book and I was like, sure
my
it's in
mushroom.
here. I looked in it and I went, do not eat.
Damn.
Good, because it looked not very nice.
I think as Terry Pratchett said, all fungi are edible.
Yes, some
only
edible once.
Only once. Exactly. But that's one area where I can identify. Over the years, I've been doing bushcraft for many, many years, but I've always been interested in fungi, but I've also been incredibly wary of fungi. So unless it's something that is really obvious,
so.
I just I'd rather look at them for their beauty.
Yes, same.
Rather
than potentially have the worst day of your life.
Because I'm not having to survive. I'm not having to survive, so I'm not going to say, I'm going to pick that chicken in the woods and eat it. I don't need to.
Well, I tell you one thing. I've always wanted to try one of those puffballs.
The puffballs, yeah.
Do you remember the puffballs?
Yeah, I remember when we took Chaz out, a friend of ours, out on a survival course.
Survival weekend,
and they had some real big puffballs there.
Yeah. I thought they were going to feed it to us, but they never did.
Yeah,
Are they always big or are they small?
No, you can get very small ones.
I think up at Ampthill Park there was loads and loads of them, and that we looked that up in the book again, I think, and it was like you can eat them. I think you have to cook them first, I think. But if after a certain point they become very powdery, which is how they were, and they are no good then.
More when they're sporing. No, when you've got the spores coming out. No. I remember. Do you know Malden Woods at all? It's on the south side of Bedford. I was up there a few years back actually, and there was a fallen oak, and the oak itself was sort of hollowed out a little bit from where it had been rotting, and there was a huge beefsteak fungus. It was the first. I've always been looking out for a beefsteak fungus. You literally cut them, and it looks like bleeding flesh.
Wow.
But even then, I hesitate. I said, I'm not going to take that because I want to do what you did.
Yep. Check.
Go back, double check.
Always check.
And I thought, right. I think a couple of days later, I'll go back. And by that time, somebody had taken a stick to it and just smashed it to pieces. But on the subject of fungi and identifying them using books, I would highly recommend go on a course.
Yes,
if you get the opportunity to.
The one we saw, the rare one we saw, I can't remember what it was. It was black and white, but it was the way it was layered. I think it was white over black, and that was. Oh, it might have been the other way around. It might have been black over white. But anyway, there's two, and they look very similar. One's black over white, one's white over black, and one is edible and one is not.
That's why I say.
Always check.
That's why you want to go on one of these courses, so the person who's running the course can point at it and say, yes, you can eat that one. No, you can't eat that one. You're going to die.
Yeah, I would say, if you can do that, if you're 100% happy and you're 100% sure of what you're eating, fine. But if in doubt, don't.
When it comes to fungus.
When it comes to most things that you might, there are certain things you can do.
It's just good general advice in life, to be honest. If you're unsure about eating it, probably don't.
But again, in our holy trinity, one of those is survivalists. And if you were in a survival situation, then you might need to try something to see if it is. And then usually it's pop it in your mouth, keep it in the side of your mouth, see if there's a reaction. Don't eat, goes chomping into it. Do all the little tests.
How many
first.
different Bear Grylls programs could we reference right now?
Eat a little bit, if you've got no mouth reaction and things.
Bear Grylls always
I
says.
need to squeeze the moisture out of this elephant dung.
As Bear Grylls always says,
Use
5-star hotel or I'm not doing it.
I always feel sorry for the cameraman who's following him down the cliff.
Yeah, it's always poor old Bear Grylls is jumping off the cliffs all enthusiastically, followed by cameraman who nobody ever mentions. He's like, oh no!
Yeah, it's all right for you. You can use your hands.
Yeah, okay, you've used the dead sheep that you just pulled out of the bog and use it as a sleeping bag. What the hell am I meant to use?
Thanks.
Thanks for that.
It's all right if you inflate it and blooming traverse across a pond. That's fine.
Exactly. A bear used to be your chief scout as well.
Yeah, true.
He still is, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what they say about Bear Grylls and Ray Mears, you see.
Yeah. Always trust the fat survivalist.
Well, for those people listening, might not know, that's the difference between survivalists and bushcraft. Because surviving is all about doing exactly that. You're put into a situation where you are literally having to use skills to survive until you can find a way out or somebody rescues you. Whereas bushcraft is just simply about living out in the wild.
I'm going to put myself in this situation.
Baking bread in the woods.
and living comfortably.
Just smoke some salmon over
That's
this
it.
open fire.
Making a sweat lodge while you've got a really nice bed that you've made out of twigs, and it's all you're making a bannock, and it's all lovely. That's bushcraft. That's the Ray Mears comfortable lifestyle.
Anyway,
don't
where were we?
squeeze that. Don't squeeze the dung. That's what we do.
Good say, I guess.
What we were on? Oh yes, we were on number 5. So it's my number 5 now, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, my number 5 is British Army penknife.
Oh, there we go.
Stroke multi-tool.
Okay.
Because if you can't get hold of a British Army penknife, there are plenty of multi-tools that you can pick up as well. And in fact, somebody did. I'm going to go straight. I'm going to jump the list now, but I'm going to go straight to the multimedia list, where I had a chap, and he did say that there's a multi-tool secateurs set at Waitrose that's around £7 at the moment.
Oh.
And he said he's got one and it's pretty good.
It's probably the cheapest thing in Waitrose.
So there you go, a multi-tool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We're getting down the list now.
on to number
Yeah.
4. An army surplus sleeping bag.
Yep, okay.
Always good.
The lovely term that they use in bushcraft is, what sleep system do you use?
Oh, yes.
So, what sleep system?
You've got to
do you
use one of the...
You've got to have a sleep
The good
system,
one, the
and then
good
you've got to
one.
do a video about your sleep system.
I do like this sleeping
Yes,
bag.
this sleeping bag, bivvy bags, tents, what's it called? Oh, tarps, being under your tarp,
Hammocks
being on your hammock. What is your sleep system?
Well, the thing is I like about the army surplus ones is the fact that they actually keep you warm.
They do, yeah.
Where if you go outdoors or something and they just
I have one from Guy
keeps
Outdoors.
you
It's a bit
cold.
of a fancy one. I didn't want one of these mummy-shaped ones. I wanted a nice one because for once space wasn't a problem. Because I was like, well, if I'm going camping now, I'm trying to build my truck into an overlander. Space isn't much of a problem. So I bought a really nice one. It is very warm.
Yeah.
It was quite expensive. Probably more expensive than a British Army surplus one.
Yeah, I just found it in a shop.
But it was very good.
Bargain
Yes.
bucket. So.
Yeah. Well,
Treated
our
myself.
local army surplus, great place called the Green Barn over near Cambridge.
I keep meaning
So if
to go
anybody listening from the Green Barn, awesome place to go. I know there's other places out there, but we're close in Bedfordshire. We're close to the Green Barn. So
Definitely
if you need to
recommended.
go and find that British Army sleeping bag or backpack,
Or literally most of the things on this
Most of
list.
the things on your list, yeah.
but then you can order them offline as well. So there you go. But they've never let us down at the Green Barn.
Never.
We're not sponsored by the Green Bar, by the way.
Yet.
But if you want to sponsor us. Okay, so sleeping bag. But I agree. I have problems with sleeping bag. I'm looking at you, Jack,
Yes,
and making
that's why I don't have a mummy one.
it's
I'm
the
very
shoulder
wide.
width.
Yes.
Because I have an issue trying to get the zip
Yep.
done up.
It's fantastic up to about
And
here.
up to your waist. After
And then
that,
you're like,
it's just absolute
Yep,
nightmare.
no, that's why I bought
I
the
actually
spider one.
I can zip myself into my British Army one fine. And then in the middle of the night, this is a bit of advice, don't drink probably an hour before you go to bed, which everybody drinks right up to the point of going to bed. And then you go, I need to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. And once I'm out of that sleeping bag, I ain't getting back. I can never get that zip done.
I'm gonna hold it
This
until
is
morning.
The thing. Yeah,
But-
the width thing on sleeping bags is a bit of an issue. I'm tempted to gift my one that I have just bought to one of my children because I may go for a double one.
But if we're talking about sort of a bargain, sleeping bag's going to be incredibly expensive.
Yes.
But if we're talking about bargain, budget, then ex-army ones, they're always still in really good condition.
Definitely.
They are very warm.
Always check it out first. Make sure you fit.
Yeah, I just lay it on the floor, get in it, and see if it fits. And there are other different sleep systems, of course. I like the Dutch Army poncho, which is a poncho, but it also doubles up as a tarp, and it also clips together, and you can get a liner for it, which is a thermal liner, so it actually also turns into kind of a sleeping bag come bivvy bag. And I like to have my sleep system. I like to have. I like bivvy bags as well. And of course, it depends on the time of the year, because you're not always going to use a sleeping bag. I mean, me and Zach, we've been out there and we've gone back just to the traditional wool blanket, literally on the floor, wool blanket. Job done. That's all you need, because the nights are so warm.
At least you know you're going to fit under a wool blanket.
Thank goodness it didn't rain.
Yeah, well, we did have tarps on that one, didn't we?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so yours was the sleeping bag.
Yep.
Go for an ex-army one. Can't go wrong, really.
So what number are we on now?
4.
4. So I've got, I wrote flint and steel,
Ah.
but I was then corrected by my friends when I was chatting to them, and they said, call it a ferro rod.
Oh, there you go.
There was other terms that they had, and I was like, they are cool things, they're useful,
Ferro rod, different from a flint and steel.
Yes, that was what they said. So it was just means of lighting a fire without matches or lighter, basically.
Yeah. So flint and steel. If you've got high carbon steel, then that's when you're going to get a spark off of your flint. Or if you use a ferro rod and use the back of your knife, or a lot of the ferro rods will. I mean, you can just buy a ferro rod by itself and you stick a handle on it. That's why I like big chunky ferro rod. Stick a wooden handle on the end of it. Use the back of your knife, or some of these smaller ones, they come with a little sort of
I should be
steel
looking for a new
striker.
one. I bought a cheap one from Go Outdoors and it fell apart immediately.
Yeah.
Just fall out the handle.
Yes,
it.
it's very annoying. I thought that looks cool and useful and nice and small and compact.
Find
and
yourself a nice big chunky
thick ones.
rod. And get a big chunky rod. What do you guys love it?
Nothing.
You want a bit of girth on it, so it's going to last you, and make a handle for it. Stick a leather
Stick
thong.
a handle on your rod.
Yeah, stick a handle on your rod. Stick a leather thong through the
Sorry?
end. Yeah, give it a Prince Albert through the end of the handle.
Anyway.
I knew what direction this conversation was going, and you can't go wrong with that. And as I say, if you use the back of your knife, not all knives. So if you've got your little camp knife around the camp that you do sort of you use as your sort of utility knife. Yeah, because again, a lot of people have different knives when they're doing bushcraft, where they will use one knife specifically for finer work, feathering sticks or cooking or whatever they're doing. But everybody has kind of their go-to knife. But not all knives have an edge on the back of them. Some of them are kind of smooth or rounded off. It's always good if you've got one of those knives and you don't mind doing this, file the back so it's got a nice square top on it near to the handle, because then you can get your ferro rod right in that nick and strike down. You'll get this beautiful spark off it.
In the process of making a knife out of one of the biggest files I've ever found in my life. It's almost like an Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator size.
I've got one of those upstairs.
I'll show it to you later.
One thing about that
Yep.
is if you're doing that, make sure it's either a lock knife or a fixed blade knife.
Yeah.
Not
You don't want to be doing
just a
that back of
folding
your
knife.
knife on a folding knife.
My thumb!
Yep, that's gone.
And that's a tip on the Opinel knives. I don't know if you're familiar with Opinel.
Yes,
They tend to have the wooden handles on them, and they have a little swiveling
Yes.
ferrule that
Yes.
locks the blade.
I
So
find
it can
they're
be,
just over fancy.
it can be well. They're really sharp.
Yeah, they're sharp.
They are a really sharp knife. Okay, I can't fault them for that. The blades are really sharp, and they keep a great edge on them. It's nice having the wooden handle as well, but it's got this little ferrule ring that you turn, and so you can actually lock it shut, so it doesn't open, and you can then when it's open you can lock it. But I've actually found, and I'm really careful with my knives, but I've found that ferrule, if you're not careful, it can actually just work itself and it'll fold on you when you don't expect it to, because you kind of
heat and moisture and stuff on the
Like,
wood can change the size.
I don't know
of
if it's
the wood,
happened
and
to any
I've
of our listeners out there, but I've twice, when I've kind of in my mind, you're thinking, right, I've turned the ferrule, it's locked, everything's fine, and then it's gone and folded on my finger and cut my finger,
Yeah.
and it's like the ferrule slipped on it, and it's like, right, I don't trust it now. 'Cause
Only light cutting duties.
yeah, like cutting duties. I had it the weekend actually. We went out and I had that. Again, they're not technically legal, I don't suppose, but it was only a small little opinel. But
I've got a tiny one that is.
yeah, if you're on private land, it doesn't matter. So we have a permission where we are, and it's all private, so I can carry what I like really on private land. But yeah, so a knife like that, if you're going to use it for striking, as you say, be careful because you're turning it round, and if it doesn't lock,
Oh dear.
oh dear, or if you think it's locked and it's decided to slip, boom, it's going to fold. So nice, sturdy, fixed blade knife is good for that, and a good ferro rod. Job done. And you can do other things as well. You can strike the knife away from you, or keep the knife static and pull the ferro rod towards you across the back. Because I see a lot of people sometimes when they're doing the most simplest task of maybe starting a fire and they've spent ages scraping some silver birch bark and getting the nice little pile of dust.
Yeah, I know what you
And
mean.
then they get their ferro rod there and go strike away from them towards that, and then knock it absolutely everywhere. Whereas if you just put the knife and drag the ferro rod towards you, you get the same spark, and you haven't thrown your hard work and tinder everywhere. So that's all learn stuff. Right. So
You're number 4.
I'm not my number 4. Wow. It's getting close now because we're going to be on our top 3. My number 4, head torch.
There you go.
Head torch. I kind of already mentioned the social media one. I said multimedia, but social media with the secateurs. So that's that one done.
Okay, so we're going to move on
We
to
are into our
top 3.
Top 3. Now this is what I've been really waiting for, because we've gone through quite a few good items already.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting where they've sat, so this is where I'm interested.
Because some have come up a few times.
What we consider is those 3 top of the list important things to get somebody.
Okay.
So, over to you.
My number 3, a Polish Army Levou.
Ah, Polish Army Levou.
Now, it's made out of 2 ponchos that kind of button together
Yep.
to kind of make this small little tent.
Yeah, makes a Levou.
What's great about it is the fact that it can be put up in a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
Easy.
Yeah,
A
are
pole,
you familiar with the
couple of
Levou
pegs.
sets?
I've heard of them. I've heard it pronounced Lavu before.
Lavu,
Yeah.
Levou.
Are these the ones that you can also wrap around trees and use a tree as a centre pole?
You wouldn't use a centre pole, a tree as a centre pole.
Depends how thick the tree
I
is.
can't remember where I've seen that before. I've seen.
There are
tents do that,
different.
but-
There are different ways to put them up, because they come with a sectional centre pole.
You can put the
the-
actual
the-
pegs
the-
in.
There's kind of a bit pointless wrapping it around a tree. If you're going to do that, you just get a stick.
think I've
If you
seen
haven't got if you haven't got the centre pole that comes with it, you just cut any old stick that is the right length.
The ones I've seen that I keep looking at wantingly are the Savota ones.
Right. Well, a Levou, as Zak's already said, they are basically 2 army ponchos.
Yeah.
So it's literally a poncho that will go over your backpack and cover you completely, and they're pretty long, so down to the ground. They come in 3 sizes: size 1, 2, and 3. The only difference is the size 1 has one. Where the door, if you like, is where you button the ponchos together. You can use either side. You can use them as a half shelter. You don't have to put them together. You can have like a half Levou shelter, but at the bottom it will have a grommet at the bottom, one singular grommet. The size 2 will have 2 grommets, and size 3 will have 3 grommets, and it gives you probably a difference of about 5 inches in its difference. And I've heard some people who say that they're like 6'2", they go for a size 3 because they don't fit in a size 1. But it is a huge, massive difference. So yeah, the Lavues, and again, putting the Lavues up, you can use the centre pole, you can use a tri-pole where you put 3 poles together in order to then give yourself more room without having to negotiate around a pole. I tend to carry, whenever I'm out, I like a walking stick. And if I'm going with my Lavoo, I've got a walking stick that's already cut to the right length for me.
Which is handy.
So I don't have to look for a stick when I'm out. I can just literally just peg it out, stick my walking stick up.
Bish bosh, done.
It's done. Other people will go out and find a stick, cut it to length, or if they're going back to a permission or somewhere where they've camped before, they'll have a stick and they'll chuck it in the bushes and they know where it is and bring it back out again. Or you can take the peak of it and tie some cordage around it and then hook it over a branch or something, as long as obviously you're not under anything that's what we call a widow maker, which is where there's any danger. You can literally string it up, or you could go for a piece of paracord between 2 places and then hoist it up.
So many different options.
So many different options you can do.
Now,
with the
one of the reasons I thought this is in my top 3 was because at the time I actually bought it, it was about 50 quid.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Now, it was £50 at the time I bought it off of Amazon. It was like an army surplus one.
Yeah, I think even you say you bought it from Amazon, but most army surplus places like Military Mart and that, I think they were 45, 50 quid.
Yeah, but unfortunately now
they become so popular.
Yeah.
They are 120 up.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It's crazy prices for it. And the funny thing is, when I was a kid back in the 70s, I had literally the same size of tent. It wasn't 2 army ponchos, but it was called a sombrero tent. The more generic term for this type of tent is a bell tent. It's just a circular bell shape. Some people call the Lavues, they call them a teepee tent, but they're not really like a teepee. A teepee is much different. It's a lot taller, and obviously traditionally teepees were covered in skins. The Lavoo is low because in the tundra up in Finland and places like that, when you've got the snow coming in, you want it low down and to be survive against those kind of winds and that kind of in the conditions. But you can also get another one, which is the Hungarian Zeltbahn.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Hungarian Zeltbahn, I believe the translation of Zeltbahn is simply tent canvas.
Well,
again,
there you go.
The reason I bring it up, because it just sprung to mind, the Zeltbahn or Hungarian Lavoo, army Lavoo, they tend to be camo, whereas the Polish Lavues are green, just a dark green. I'm sure I've seen some people out there with some blue ones as well. I don't know where they come from or whether they're, reproductions made by somebody else. I don't know.
Who knows?
But the Zeltbahn is the same sort of size. I think it's a tiny bit smaller than the Lavoo. The Polish Lavoo, but that is more pyramid in its shape. It's square,
okay.
So you peg it out square at the bottom. But
That'd be interesting to see.
Still a single pole, and that has aluminium buttons opposed to your plastic buttons. And but there you go, variations. But I believe that the Hungarian Zeltbahn Lavoo is still at a reasonable price, and that doesn't mean you should go and put the prices up.
Buy them while you can.
Buy them while you can, yeah. But
there you go.
Okay, so that was yours.
Yep. Number 3, Jack.
Number 3, I have got Osprey water bottle, the plastic Osprey water bottle. I had one in here last time. I don't have it with me today.
Yep.
Because they're great. And everyone needs water bottles, so I put it in the top 3.
Okay, is that I can't really? Has that got the folding straw top on it? Or?
No, it's just a screw plastic top with a little plastic thing on it, so you can't misplace it or anything.
Right. Okay.
I think it's the British military bottle.
Okay. Yeah.
Fits in the Crusader cups.
That's good.
Exactly.
Mine
Yeah, I know what
a-
you're talking about now.
Mine came as a kit with the
Sorry.
bottle and the cup.
I had a mind blank there. It's the black
Yes,
bottle that comes in
yes.
the Crusader kit. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
And you can get and you can pick those up from Army Surplus.
Yeah, get several.
They're about 10 quid,
Yeah,
I think. Last I checked. I think I
and
got
you
mine
can-
for about 10, 15 quid from Ray Mears' site.
And if you come across those and they've got the grommet plug in the top, they are for when you've got a gas mask on for a breathing apparatus, so you can have a drinking bottle.
Yeah.
So some of them come with the with a little grommet in the
interesting.
top.
Yeah, I've got one that's
You've
got
got
that.
one
Yeah.
that's got that. Yeah, that's for when you're wearing your breathing apparatus. So, yeah. So no, very handy bottle. Right. So my number 3, books. Now, we mentioned books before, so I won't spend too much time on this, but I had books, and under that I had a sub-listing of
Books for Christmas?
Books for Christmas.
What the heck is that?
So I had a subsection, so bushcraft survival books, knot books, so books so people can practice different knots because...
Not books.
Yeah,
not
books.
books.
I would like not books for Christmas.
Yes.
Oh, he wants anything but books.
Okay. But knots are a very handy thing that
Yes,
everybody needs to learn.
tying knot books.
So if you can learn to do some of those, nice Prussic knot and things to get the
Figure of eight.
tension on
Yeah.
your tarp line and things
Good
like that.
stuff. Clovitch.
Yes, yeah. First, this is what I mentioned briefly when I mentioned about a first aid kit. First aid book comes under that because, to have knowledge in that.
Knowledge is power.
Foraging book,
Yes.
which is what you also mentioned. Identification of plants, okay, just as much as identify. And I've got fungi down here, and also tracking animals and identification as well. So you've got a huge, for the listeners who want ideas when it comes to books, we did mention SAS book, you did mention foraging book.
Extreme survival.
Yeah, you've got so many things you can choose from. Yeah, there's a huge list. So books, and I'm now going to go back to the Facebook, and we have got a power bank.
Yeah.
I purchased one recently. I think you have the similar one, the solar charging one.
Yeah, the solar charger one. I found that very
About-
handy
about 30
actually.
quid. I
Yeah.
found it difficult to use in the past couple of weeks. It's
Yeah.
been extremely cloudy.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
It was charging extremely slowly,
Right.
so I've been charging it up off my PlayStation.
No, that's fine. I mean,
they are-
I generally on an everyday basis, if I use that power bank and I run it down, then I will just plug it in the mains
Yep.
and charge it up.
Mhm.
But it's the fact that it has the facility that if you're out and about, you can stick
when
it
I
in,
had it,
in the
I
sun.
think the first day I got it, I just put it on because it was like, don't leave in a car. I was like, well, it's 4 degrees outside. I'm going to leave it in the car. It'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it on my dashboard, and it charged up across the course of a day about half the thing, and it's quite a big power
Right.
bank. So
Is that the one
yeah.
that's got the triple fold?
Yes. Yeah, it's about 30 quid on
Yeah,
Amazon.
yeah.
Waited to the Black Friday.
Yeah.
So and it was very good. Charged up about half its thing in a day
Mhm.
from solar. So
And you can get quite a few
Very
that
good.
that aren't solar powered that are more budget
Yep.
price than that,
you got
There you are.
£6 one battery powered one that you bought on the last.
So my number 3 was books. Now
Yes.
we're coming on to the top 2.
Top 2.
Top 2.
Okay. Top 2 for me, well, number 2 is a heavy duty fire striker with the emphasis on not small. So this is again this ferro
Yep.
rod
The ferro
thing.
rod.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the ferro rod. Over you, Jack.
My number 2, I put penknife with the thought of the open all penknives because they were quite cheap.
Yeah,
And
don't get me wrong, it's
had
not
your-
a bad
your
knife.
thoughts on them,
It's
but
not-
yeah,
they are
like
not
them.
bad knives at all.
My first penknife when I was a kid was an open all one.
Yeah.
It
Very
was-
sharp.
It was very
They are
good.
very sharp.
Spent hours just. I'd go with my dad. We'd go shooting, and I'd be bored out of my mind, and my feet would be freezing, and he'd be shooting. And I was like, I wish I could be doing that. And I'd be
Yeah.
sat there with my penknife that I think my godfather James bought me.
Have you
And
still
I'd
got
sit
it?
there. I don't.
Oh, bless.
I don't know where it went. But I'd sit there for ages, and I'd pick these plants out of the ditch. I don't know what they were, but they were sort of very light. I don't know what they were. Hollow inside.
Sounds like cow parsley, maybe.
Yeah, possibly like that. They were very dry and they were easily cut. And I was just a kid. I just cut them for hours and hours. So-
It's
There
great.
you go.
There you go. Superb.
I keep you occupied.
They keep you- and again, I will emphasize they are a good knife. Just have to watch that on ferrule. That's all.
Yeah.
My number 2, life straw.
Wow.
See,
Okay.
which was right back to your number 10.
That was my number 10.
And I thought that because it's a way of making sure you've got plenty of fresh water.
Well, you need water to survive,
Need
so.
water. So
I
that,
didn't put life straw on mine at all.
that came
Oh,
in-
no,
The first thing I thought of as well was life straw, and then I was going to put it as my number 1, and I haven't. And I've changed it for something silly.
Thankfully, we've got it covered.
we've got it covered. Now, in a situation we're getting all the gear together, aren't we?
And we've even got spares.
Or spares. As to say, 1 is none, 2 is 1.
There you
I'm not going to now refer to the list from the social media because we've run out of social media suggestions. So that just leaves us with the number 1 spot.
Number 1.
This is what we would go to if we were going to.
Can I suggest for this one, because mine is silly, that we go this way around?
Okay.
Okay.
Mine, and I base this on. I'm going to give you a little story. I was on a film job last October, so a year ago. Now, not October just gone, but October last year, and I was away in my van camping on location for a month, and other people that were filming on this project were coming and going, and I was with a small group of people. There's 6 of us that were. I can't really tell you the stuff because of NDAs, but there was 6 of us that were a core group in this film shoot, and so we spent all our time together for a whole month. Apart from when it got to the end of the day, and everybody else left site, but I had my camper van, so I stayed there, and me and the security guard who had his camper van, we had a good old conversation. So, look at my camper van, what the fuck is my camper van? As you do. But I wasn't leaving site, okay, apart from when it got to a weekend. And when we got towards the end of that shoot, throughout that shoot, because people were leaving site, they were coming back in from our group and they were bringing little gifts in. And by the end of it, I thought, I'd kind of felt, and some of the last gifts were, there was three ladies, 3 gents, and one of the ladies brought us all in kind of like little Christmas gift. And the shoot was extended by 3 days, and because I hadn't been leaving site, I kind of felt like I had got the opportunity to go and do any kind of shopping or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But because they extended it for 3 days, it meant that the last weekend I came back, I thought, right, what am I going to get everybody? What am I going to get everybody as a gift? To it just right. And I thought, what would I give them?
Mm-hmm.
So I make tinder pouches, and that's not my number one, by the way, but I make leather tinder pouches. And I thought the best gift that I can give them personally for myself was the gift of fire, and that's what I've got on my number one. Back to the ferro rod, the gift.
Oh, there you go.
Fire lighting. So I gave them all a ferro rod in a leather tinder pouch. The 3 chaps, I gave them their ferro rods and some tinder and stuff, because I know blokes, they kind of like it. The ladies are going, I don't know what that is. Not being sexist or anything, but what I did with the ladies is because they were very much, or spent a month with them, I kind of knew what they were like, what they liked to do. So I got them all scented candles to go in there, so they could light the candles, cool. So they could have scented candles for Christmas. So and they loved it. But the gift was, what can I give somebody? The gift of fire. Because cool. Fire is the thing that, the element for me, I mean, obviously you need water as well, but fire is that thing that keeps us warm, cooks our food, keeps us safe, and mankind, if we hadn't discovered how to manipulate fire, we wouldn't have all the things we have now, because
we probably wouldn't be able to be doing this podcast.
Not at all.
Because fire has allowed humans to alter things and to manufacture things and such. So fire, and that's why that's at the top of my list.
That's very cool.
So anyway, yours was the funny one.
Yes, what have you got?
You're coming in last place.
Now, this one I chose as the fact that, okay, if I'm on a desert island, what is the one thing I would want?
I know this. I know Twinkies.
Not Twinkies.
Twinkie loves Twinkies.
Not Twinkies.
Give me my Twinkies!
It can be like that sometimes, especially when they're really pricey. But one thing I would want on a desert island is my British Army survival knife.
Ah, the pig. That's a common name for it.
Is it?
The pig, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it used to be in the vehicle's toolbox, toolkit. In fact, I've got one just behind you.
Oh, I can get it.
Yeah, I can get it. Then Jack will know what we're talking about. It's hanging up right in front of you.
Oh, yeah. So it blends in.
It's just outside the studio.
Oh, they're very heavy.
Yeah, but it is one big chunk of steel.
The thickness of the one I'm making out of the file, then.
It means the business.
It really does. It's very cool.
You can do pretty much anything with that. It's literally a hand axe.
Yeah.
But you can't bust it.
Good for splitting.
You can't bust it. It gets a real good edge on it. It's great for
easy to sharpen.
to sharpen.
Very good.
An amazing.
You can use it as a hammer.
Yeah, you can have pry bar.
Yeah, anything.
I mean, we've literally built an Anglo-Saxon village using those.
Very
knives.
good. Very good.
So that's your number one.
That's my number one. I love that knife to pieces.
It has over the years proven itself.
It's proven itself.
It's not the fanciest of knives.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
You love
it's beautiful.
it. Other people will say it's just a big chunk of steel.
Fantastic.
It is
awesome.
It is, for me, it's my go-to camp knife.
No nonsense. No nonsense.
I do anything from really fine feathering, doing feather sticks, Well, it just does everything.
To splitting logs.
You know,
Yeah.
splitting logs, yeah. Well, as the Bushcrafters like to say, processing, wood processing. Yes. It'll do pretty much everything. I think that my other finer knives, I'll just use those for cooking and stuff like that. You know. But there you go. So yours is the British Army, as it's generally referred to, survival knife. Yeah.
Yes.
Jack, you get the pride of place of being the.
I do, but it's been kind of spoiled. Mine was Twinkies.
Oh no!
Give him a round of applause for that one.
We could be Twinkie brothers.
Yeah, Twinkie brothers.
I tried so hard to get Twinkies to bring in as well today, and they don't sell them in Tesco's anymore.
Oh.
Well, if I went out to my stores, I have got Twinkies in the rations.
How old are they?
That doesn't really matter, does it?
This is the thing. I looked it up, and apparently they're not invincible. They go off after like 25 days.
No.
No.
They're the food of the ancients.
I imagine that's if
Inkies.
they're opened.
Inkies.
I imagine they last forever unopened. So,
You've seen Mortal Engines, haven't you?
I really wanted to watch that, and I was very excited about watching it, and I started watching it and I fell asleep. Not because it was
bless.
boring, because I was absolutely
Too
knackered,
tired.
and I must get back round to watching
There's a
it.
scene in that where they're eating the food of the ancients. It's like, how old are these? They're like several thousand years old or something.
Oh, I need to watch this.
And the packaging, of course, has worn off. And what are these? They're called Inkies.
Oh, no, I must go back and watch that.
Okay.
I was enjoying it until I fell asleep.
So there you go. We've got our top 10 Christmas gift ideas
There you go.
for the preppers, bushcrafters, and survivalists, the Holy Trinity.
Very good.
Okie dokie. So that brings us to our word of the week, and the word of the week was
Crepuscular.
Have you worked out what it means, Jack?
No, but
You can take a stab in the dark.
I'm going to have a guess and say that I think it's a thing. I think
It's a thing.
I think it's a thing, and I think it's the space between the glass and the image on your television.
Right. Okay.
That's certainly something I
Yeah,
remember.
I lost it in the crepuscular. You know?
How would you fit that in a sentence?
Okay. Okay. Crepuscular means resembling or relating to twilight, or in zoology, of an animal appearing or active in twilight.
So that would be at dawn or dusk.
Yes.
Yes.
that's
cool.
Such as a bat.
a bat.
Very cool.
Crepuscular.
I think I've heard this word before. Was it mentioned on your Bat podcast?
Possibly.
Possibly.
It has origins in the mid-17th century from the Latin crepusculum, meaning twilight.
There
Very
you go.
cool.
Crepuscular.
Today
Crepuscular.
I learned a thing.
Crepuscular.
Well done in the comments if you got it right.
Hey, well done. Well done. Well done.
Jack, have you enjoyed coming back on the podcast?
I certainly have.
Would you like to come back again?
I certainly would.
There you go.
Yeah, I think you're going to be a regular because we need you in for the prepping podcast.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we're going to do
I
seven more
enjoy
of
this.
these.
I'm learning much as well.
Well, we need to go
Always.
back and cover the water,
Yep.
cover the different things about food, as well as.
There's
all
so
the-
many different things we
Yeah,
could talk about when it
exactly.
comes to
There is.
prepping.
It really
That's
is.
it.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Check out the Zak Wylde Productions social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. Please get in contact. We'd love to find out how you're listening to us. So get in touch in the comments and don't forget to check out Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon to become an official ZWP patron today.
That's a big crepuscular goodbye from Zach.
I don't have one.
Twinkies.
How can I fit Twinkies into a goodbye?
Just say Twinkies.
Twinkies!
Twinkies. Goodbye from Jack over there. And I don't know. A fire striker goodbye from Buzz. There you go.
Goodbye!
Practice your fire striking skills. Go for it. Goodbye.